In 2059, the entire Earth was covered by nuclear radiation, causing all technology to disappear. As time passed, the civilization of humans disappeared, and instead, the Earth was filled with mutated beasts. Fortunately, there are survivors that are fighting for life in every way they can. Liu Mo, covered in blood, fought these creatures with all his might, but they were outnumbered. In the midst of the fight for life, a powerful bolt of lightning struck, hitting right into Liu Mo struggling for life. After that, Liu Mo wakes up in a completely different place. The same place is not like that Aqua Marine, where everything is in chaos and countless mutated animals are running around. Finding himself in a forest full of trees and greenery, he was not only surprised. Looking at his hands, Liu Mo noticed that they were not the same as before. After touching his face, he made sure that something was wrong. Liu Mo realized that he had become smaller, as if he was trapped in a child's body. Looking around, he was amazed. Everything looked like that aquamarine from the stories of the elders. That wasn't the end of the strange events. Right after that, he heard someone's voice. Pensive Liu Mo couldn't understand why he heard the voice, after all. Even for the slightest resources, people could cut each other's throats. Picking up a stone, Liu Mo rushed towards the sounds of voices. Running to the sound, Liu Mo noticed two men around the lake. By the looks of it, these men were intent on making a duel, whereupon the man with the sword called his opponent an ancestor of demonic blood, and did not hesitate to rush at him. Before the collision, the second man prepared himself by taking a stand. A powerful surge of water erupted from their collision. Everything around was flying around between the battle, splashes of water surrounding this duel. After observing, Liu Mo realized these were the same cultivators that the elders had told about in their stories. At the same moment, Liu Mo realized something more. This was the world of cultivators, and it meant that here one could achieve the Tao that would grant immortality. But Liu Mo's ponderings didn't stop the battle. Another powerful blow shook the ground and shattered the rocks. Liu Mo gave a flinch because he knew that the strength of the cultivators was so great that even one swing would be enough to kill Liu Mo. After running for a long time, Liu Mo found a house. With caution, Liu Mo slowly opened the gate, for he did not know whether the people here were friends or enemies. Opening the gates before his eyes, a temple appeared. At the entrance to the temple, he noticed an elder who inquired who had come. Liu Mo tried to take out a knife for self-defense, but he remembered that this was a different world, and all his uniforms disappeared. This old man really surprised Liu Mo. After all, there were two cultivators fighting very close to him, and he was so calm. Liu Mo realized that if it was that immortal cultivator, he could teach him a lot of things, so without thinking long, Liu Mo fell on his knees and asked to be his disciple. The elder didn't understand what the youngster was talking about, asking him a counter question about where his family was. Liu Mo replied that he was an orphan, but that didn't do much for the headman because he still didn't understand what the young man was talking about. Liu Mo also noticed that the grandfather's energy had weakened, which probably meant he wouldn't kill him. However, Liu Mo was unwavering. He bowed his head and once again said that he wanted to learn his fighting style, and in return he would do anything for the elder to accept him as a disciple. After which, the elder was unsure but said so be it since Liu Mo was sincere with his words. The elder decided to leave Liu Mo in his temple for a while, and asked him to introduce himself, after which he told about himself as well. The elder's name was Xuanyang. The next day, Xuanyang and Liu Mo were meditating in a quiet forest. Liu Mo asked again when Xuanyang would show him a couple of techniques instead of just one meditation. But he replied that Liu Mo was not ready yet because he had not mastered the breathing technique and had not collected his first supply of spiritual qi. But Liu Mo said that he had already mastered everything that Xuanyang had voiced, whereupon a blue fire flared up in his hand, which was called spiritual qi flow. Liu Mo added that even without breathing techniques, he could feel his spiritual qi growing even without breathing techniques. Xuanyang was stunned because everything he taught Liu Mo was just health techniques, not the basics of any magic, since Xuanyang himself could not produce qi. Xuanyang realized that he couldn't renounce the child so easily. So he remembered that, had two books that had a lot of information that would help Liu Mo in his teachings. Liu Mo was surprised to actually receive his secret books, after which Xuanyang said that this was all he could teach him, and the rest depended on his efforts and desire. Liu Mo was in such a burst of joy that he couldn't help but hug Xuanyang. A whole 10 years Liu Mo worked hard. Unfortunately, perfect Xuanyang died 8 years after starting his training. Liu Mo did not give in to devote all of himself in 2 years after the passing of Xuanyang. Looking at his hand, Liu Mo noticed that the ring that Xuanyang had given him would be guarded with all his might. Strongly changed, Liu Mo still leaves the place where they had trained together with Xuan Yan for so long. Taking a powerful leap, Liu Mo swept that the only way to live peacefully in this world, only to become an expert. Later, we get to the surroundings of the Heavenly City. Since Liu Mo came to this world, technology has greatly increased. Some man was playing a computer review of his main character named Nini, a little brunette girl flying on a sword. The mighty phoenix manifested itself in front of Nini. Flapping its wings, tongues of flame flew towards the girl. Nini didn't hesitate and shouted, "Sword!" She pulled out the same flaming sword as the phoenix's fire, and with a swing she let the fire streak follow the phoenix. Liu Mo, who was watching this, was extremely surprised. He couldn't understand how this girl, who was already 6 years old, could maneuver the chi sword perfectly and had such strength. Liu Mo also said that he was only playing in the mud when he was 6 years old. Liu Mo held his head in fear. He realized that he had been reckless. It was in vain that he had come down the mountain with his pathetic cultivation, innate stage cultivation. A tap on the shoulder distracted Liu Mo from his thoughts. The girl asked him if he wanted to try computers for so long, standing and looking at them. Liu Mo did not understand what he was talking about, because it was the first time he saw or heard about such a thing as a computer. Liu Mo was horrified, even more so after he asked if there were many experts like this little girl. For the woman told him with a smile that in their days, people like them were everywhere. After learning more about computers, Liu Mo was interested in what it was and wanted to try it. But before he could do that, he needed an ID, which Liu Mo didn't even know about. Still, the woman agreed to give him a computer without an ID, after which Liu Mo paid and asked how to use the thing after all. After a little practice, Liu Mo knew how to use a computer, but was shocked at the capabilities of this thing. The first thing he did was start searching about strong people in this world. Seeing thousands of search results in front of his screen, he clicked on the very first one, which showed a video. The video itself was quite short. A very pumped-up man was struck by lightning but didn't even flinch. After seeing this, Liu Mo realized that he wasn't even close to this mastermind. After a short election, Liu Mo came to the decision not to return to the mountain as it was too slow and decided to find a new teacher, or even information on the internet, that would help him succeed by force to other experts. The first thing Liu Mo decided, download TikTok app because that woman mentioned that there are a lot of experts there. It didn't take long for Mo to find the experts in this app. He was again surprised at how much useful information there is and how convenient it is. Liu Mo made another decision, to shoot a video clip. Maybe someone would give him some tips. At the beginning of the video, Liu Mo focused and created strong chi flows, then wondered in front of the camera if anyone had any tips that would possibly improve his chi flows. Sitting in front of the screen, Liu Mo frantically waited for someone to watch his video. After a while, he got a reply. It was some lady who said she had just gotten over grief and swept up 8 years. It's really a bit late to start cultivating and she would be happy to give a couple of tips. The woman's name was Dahlia. Her secretary said the stream would start 10 minutes in advance. Dahlia watched the same battle previously seen by Liu Mo. The same battle that was 10 years ago is currently only a TV series. Dahlia leafed through TikTok in her spare time. After a while, she found Liu Mo. And after watching his video, she was even surprised that it didn't look like a montage. So she decided to write because she was curious. Her attention was pulled away by the receptionist, saying that the stream was about to start, and Dahlia could already walk up to the camera. After a comment left by Dahlia on Liu Mo's video, he started receiving thousands of new responses. A lot of compliments and good words flew towards Liu Mo. He was surprised and at the same time happy that he was called handsome and noted his skillful abilities. The only thing he noticed, but did not fully understand what special effects these people were talking about. Seeing the bad comments, Liu Mo recognized that his abilities were quite limited. But after all the bad and good, he noticed a comment that was from an expert who told Liu Mo that his chi was too turbulent and should have used it from the heart. Listening to Liu Mo's advice, he tried the method he had been told, and to his surprise it really worked. His chi flows became stronger and calmer. Liu Mo was overjoyed, because even by taking a little advice from each expert, he would get a tremendous result. The first thing Liu Mo wanted to learn from Dahlia, noticing that she had an air, he went in on it. With easy movements, Dahlia walked the jugs. In a quiet and peaceful place, she skillfully made her movements. She also skillfully displayed her chi flows. With light and glamorous movements, she swung her arms, creating tongues of fire after her. After a few swings, she formed a symbol that represented a phoenix. Making this symbolism, her fire flared even brighter. After her show, Dahlia said that you should start cultivating from the moment you are born, because over time, the body deteriorates from the impurities of the mortal world. Liu Mo was once again shocked. He realized why he was only at this level. All this time he should have started from birth. Undeterred, Liu Mo wrote a comment to Dahlia, asking if there was a way to fix his situation. Dahlia's secretary wondered if she was doing anything, because this time their stream was breaking all records. But right afterward, Dahlia's assistant mentioned that Liu Mo had showed up in the comments, noting that as soon as he showed up, the activity skyrocketed by leaps and bounds. Dahlia decided to reply to Liu Mo by saying that a certain expert, Zhang Xiaofan, also started at the age of 8 and became a great immortal. After hearing this, Liu Mo realized that he would need to inject qi into himself specifically to purify himself from the impurities of the outside world. After running out of the building, Liu Mo intended to find a secluded place to try the method he had invented after all. Shooting into the sky like a bullet, he jumped very far away. At the same time, Dahlia was finishing up her stream. After landing, Liu Mo found himself in an abandoned hangar. Immediately, without hesitating, Liu Mo put his palms together. Flags of flames abruptly appeared behind him. Liu Mo directed these lights forward, after which they spread out on the ground. A couple seconds later, the lights joined together to form a ritual star. Liu Mo flew into the air, and holding himself in the center of this ring, he began to meditate. Concentrating, Liu Mo made an explosion around himself. All the lights scattered around the edges of the hangar, scattering all sorts of rocks and objects on the floor. The impact was so strong that in a split second, the quiet, forgotten hangar turned into a huge, blazing bonfire. Liu Mo began to absorb the qi streams he had created. Fully focused, he took a deep breath. In one sharp movement, he made a surge of power in front of him. The second blow was so strong that it blew a hole in the hangar wall without any effort at all. The mark was in the shape of a palm, but Liu Mo was only glad because it worked. Liu Mo was glowing with joy. He believed that Dahlia was truly immortal. Just a couple of her tips helped him reach a whole new level. It took Liu Mo 10 years to reach at least the elementary stage, and compared to his past life, this world is filled with good people. In this world, he was like a frog in a well. Liu Mo thought if he got Dahlia's favor, he could find his place in the world. Liu Mo decided to find Dahlia. Immediately after the decision, he sprang into action, jumping far into the sky. Being at cloud height, he looked around, looking where he wanted to land. Then easily, without causing any sound or destruction, like a butterfly, landed on the ground. Now he had to find an internet source where he would contact Dahlia. Turning around, Liu Mo looked at the woman next to him who was peering at her phone. He realized that people were using this thing to access the internet, and it was called the phone. Liu Mo also realized that he would be able to contact Dahlia through the phone. But the pondering didn't last long. The man behind him pulled Liu Mo away, promising that if he won the lottery for 1 yuan, he would get a new phone. Even passers-by nearby were surprised at such a generous raffle. The man at Liu Mo's side immediately noticed that even the odds at the casino are better than here. The woman next to her also commented that spending money on this is useless. She hasn't seen a single person win anything here yet. The man behind the counter brushed it off, justifying it all by saying that those people just didn't have any luck. Liu Mo wanted to know for sure if it was possible to use the internet on his phone, so he asked the man, and he said that the whole world of the internet would be in his hands. The bet interested Liu Mo. If he won, he would have a phone and new opportunities. The man again explained the conditions. By paying 1 yuan, there is an opportunity to pull out 1 ball, and if a special ball is caught, you get a cell phone. Liu Mo agreed, placing 1 yuan on the man's table. Lowering his hand into the box, he grabbed the nearest balloon and pulled it upward. Then he handed the balloon to the man to open it and check Liu Mo's luck. Opening the balloon with my finger, there was a yellow piece of paper there. The man couldn't believe it, but Liu Mo pulled out a special prize. Liu Mo thought that was fine. On the master's passing, he had left him some cash and it was worth spending it wisely, and the phone was an opportunity to access the internet without paying for a computer club fee. Holding out his phone to Liu Mo, he asked how to use this thing. After a little persuasion, the man showed some features, and Liu Mo was required to buy a SIM card. Liu Mo headed to an abandoned construction site to shoot a video. It didn't take long to find a location. After finding a place, Liu Mo started filming. Putting the phone down, he stepped back a couple steps. Streams of wind surrounded Liu Mo's body from his forehead to his feet, after which he released all the currents into one point. A powerful gust of air brought destruction ahead of Liu Mo. Just like that time in the hangar, a palm-shaped mark was left in the wall. In front of Liu Mo, a barrage of rocks came flying at him. With one swipe of his hand, he swirled the air on top of himself. Every single stone flew up and swirled on top of Liu Mo. Taking a stand, Liu Mo said that by trying Dahlia's technique, she had helped him purify a large amount of impurities from his body. However, some still remained in him. Since Liu Mo was already popular because of the video collaboration with Dahlia, his video became in a blink of an eye. A lot of people were amazed from his special effects. Some got caught up in his beauty too. Liu Mo didn't like that almost all of the comments were about special effects, because that was his real strength. On the phone screen, Liu Mo saw that Dahlia had started a broadcast. Without thinking long, he decided to join. Dahlia was greeted by all the viewers of the streamer. Lots of comments immediately hit the chat, all of them positive. But there were also donations. The Velvet Fairy Dog gave 99 hearts, which Dahlia thanked him for. There were also thanks to other donators. For example, Taoist Liu Bu donated 999 unicorns. Liu Mo was delighted. In a short period of time, her stream had 10 million users and 1 billion likes. Dahlia showed the immortal fragrant tea. She explained that the tea is specially processed, and those who drink it will have an unforgettable experience, as well as Dahlia's autograph. Liu Mo was surprised. He didn't think an expert like her needed to advertise anything. Unfortunately, Liu Mo didn't have enough money for Dahlia's tea. He wondered if she would be willing to give him another piece of advice or not. In between the compliments, Liu Mo's comments seeped in. He revealed that he had tried Dahlia's way and would like to hear more tips. Dahlia's assistant said that Liu Mo reappeared in the comments. Seeing the comment, Ta pondered a bit on what to reply to Liu Mo. Looking at the common room, Dahlia's mind flashed with an idea of what to answer. Dahlia said she would be away for the next 2 days and advised her to visit the park where Liu Mo could find a group of Reveridar. The Reverends have incredible knowledge of cultivation. Dahlia added that the Reverends are only there at 6 in the morning, when the concentration of spiritual power is at its peak. With a little fog, the park wasn't the most crowded at this earlier time. Liu Mo could even tell from the air why Dahlia had sent him here. The air itself was much cleaner than in the city. Wandering through the park, Liu Mo saw an elderly man who was standing in a stand, apparently preparing to something. Liu Mo was trying to figure out who this man was. Was it really that reverend? Liu Mo's thoughts were interrupted by the man's exclamation. The man shrieked and hit his back against the tree behind him. It reached Liu Mo. He realized that it was most likely a specialist from a school that practiced body purification. Something diverted Liu Mo's gaze and attention, or more accurately, someone. The young man made a diving leap right in front of Liu Mo. Liu Mo looked at the man in bewilderment. Why bathe this early in the day? And then it hit Liu Mo. Since the water is icy at such a time, the guy might be practicing using energy qi to gain enlightenment. After observing, Liu Mo went to find someone to help him with his breathing techniques. He searched among older men who trained differently. Some had specific ways, like some grandpa who was spinning on a tourniquet, or the grandmother next door who caught herself by the neck and ran forward. In all this chaos, the old man called Liu Mo over to talk to him. After the first words of the old man, Liu Mo didn't hear. Only the second time he realized what was being said to him. Walking over, Liu Mo apologized. Grandpa calmly replied that there was no need to fume over nothing. Grandpa said that he noticed Liu Mo with his keen eye. Liu Mo was shocked. He probably detected Liu Mo with his spiritual perception. But Liu Mo's spiritual perception couldn't even detect the slight pulsating radiation coming from him. Caught in a stupor, Liu Mo began to realize more and more that the old man surpasses Liu Mo by 2 steps. Even more. If he pissed off the grandfather in any way, he would be smeared like a fly on the wall. Bowing his head to the elder, Liu Mo wanted to know his name. Grandpa looked at Liu Mo skeptically. He didn't understand why the latter had such a strange facial expression. The old man decided to play along with Liu Mo and pretended to forget his name and called himself Reverend Purple Sun. Liu Mo asked what the Reverend was doing, to which he realized Liu Mo was continuing his games and decided to keep playing along. The Reverend said he waited until sunset to collect the most concentrated spiritual qi and essence of the sun and moon. The old man's level was incomprehensible. Liu Mo couldn't even sense the qi that came from the merging of the sun and moon as an elementary-level Taoist. But this Reverend could easily absorb this qi. How strong is he? Liu Mo bowed to the master, who asked what Liu Mo was doing here so early in the morning. The one repented and told that he wished to get rid of all impurities in himself, but could not be completely deprived of them, and on the advice of the immortal fairy came here. The elder said that there was no way Liu Mo would have done it on his own, but it wouldn't be difficult for the old man to do it. The Reverend held out 3 books for Liu Mo to look at the priceless treasure. The elder asked if Liu Mo wanted these books, to which he immediately agreed. The Reverend was willing to give these books, but wanted something in return from Liu Mo. Liu Mo understood that he wouldn't get these books for nothing. but all he had on him was 5 yuan. Buying the phone and SIM card took his other money. Liu Mo hadn't heard all the names mentioned on the books, but in his apocalyptic world, he knew that these books were values. Getting down on one knee, Liu Mo lifted his tray of 5 yuan and said that this was all he had. The old man was infuriated by this. So much hard work had been put into his acting for just 5 yuan. Liu Mo trembled in fear. He was afraid that the fierce elder would kill him. The sage took pity on Liu Mo. Snatching 5 yuan, he gave one book to Liu Mo. It was the book Tao De Jing, a kind of Bible on Taoism. For Liu Mo, it was a treasure. Even in his past world after the apocalypse, no one had forgotten the name Tao De Jing. Liu Mo bowed his head in gratitude to the elder. How happy Liu Mo was. He had gotten such a treasure for only 5 yuan. Grandpa, however, was a bit disappointed. He wanted to bilk him out of his money and only got 5 yuan. At the same time, Dahlia was setting up a conversational stream with subscribers. Once again, she welcomed the audience to the event. Some in the comments were cheering the start of the stream. Some were arguing, and some were exalted. One commenter reminded of Liu Mo saying that he put up a new video. The assistant immediately found Liu Mo's newest video and showed it to Dahlia. The very video where Liu Mo was in an abandoned area where he created an avalanche of rocks. After watching the video, Dahlia was so surprised by the special effects that she couldn't tell the difference between it and reality. Dahlia watched and wondered. With one palm strike, Liu Mo staggered the building, and after the impact, clouds of dust rose and stones sprinkled down. While Dahlia was looking at the video, commenters were also wondering what Dahlia had seen that was so interesting. The assistant asked Dahlia to say something already. She was too stuck on the video. When Dahlia came to her senses, she said that she had watched Liu Mo's video. The reason why Liu Mo was able to fly so high was due to Dahlia's guidance and Liu Mo's talent. Dahlia joked about this topic, saying that if a follower of Taoism wishes to be completely cleansed of impurities, it would be advisable for him to practice the elemental Tao. Commentators were amused by such a joke and added their own as well. Dahlia added ideas to read the manuscript's 3 changes, change of season, turtlebone divination, but unfortunately those had already disappeared without a trace. So she added that a Taoist should start with the Tao De Jin. This book has over 5,000 lines of Taoist manuscripts, absorbing primitive and complex concepts. The assistant praised Dahlia. Thanks to her words, the views have grown to 20 million. According to the second assistant, Dahlia had spent 2 years reading various novels on cultivation. The stream eventually ended, Dahlia complaining that she was very tired. The assistant praised Dahlia. They broke the viewing record again. Dahlia remarked that Liu Mo was a pretty busy guy. He was the reason they had such a big reputation boost. The assistant proposed a collaboration with Liu Mo. Dahlia pondered the assistant's words. Liu Mo is quite handsome, and his special effects are on point. All cultivation content creators are only trying to show off their power. They are betting on drastic and excessive special effects. Liu Mo was different. He used the publicity stunt of asking for guidance and advice, which interested many professionals. At the same time, in the ruins where Liu Mo recorded his latest video, he had a problem. Liu Mo watched Dahlia's stream at the point where she was recommending the book Tao De Jins. Liu Mo already had this book, but something still kept him puzzled. He didn't understand anything about this book at all, from the word go. Something Dao, something name. Liu Mo couldn't read a word at all. It was probably because Liu Mo lacked the talent to understand such complex symbols. Liu Mo dared to look for answers on the browser. There was a text of Tao De Jin on the internet in the public domain. Liu Mo took to reading it. By exclaiming the word Dao, Liu Mo felt as if he was in outer space, infinite space, a cosmos of many planets with a crater of light in the middle. The Tao is limitless, and cultivators are merely passing passers-by. The Tao is both tangible and intangible. It is the ever-changing chaos from which order is born. The Tao is omnipresent and infinite. The Tao is the beginning of all things, and is created from emptiness. Liu Mo concentrated, breathing the streams of Tao into himself once again. The Tao formed an aura around Liu Mo. Still, the nearest Tao streams rushed towards Liu Mo. In the middle of Liu Mo, a core was formed. It was glowing brightly, apparently attracting Tao flows. The nucleus formed a child of itself that shone brighter than any source of light. Liu Mo's ritual was so strong that a vortex of Tao appeared above him. This all brought on the storm. The whole sky began to be covered with gray clouds. The residents were terrified. In a split second, the sky went from clear to cloudy, and a storm with lightning began to break out. Even the atmosphere swirled into a vortex above Liu Mo. It was perfectly visible from space. The people at the weather station have detected an anomaly. However, that wasn't the only thing they noticed. A strong cluster of unknown energy was the second thing that surprised them. The employee was told to continue to observe, and if anything, to report any changes. At the same time, the Golden Child covered Liu Mo with his aura. After reading the manuscript only once Liu Mo reached the 9th step, his entire flesh was reconstructed, and his spiritual perception was enhanced tenfold. Even his body became half immortal. Liu Mo had practically stepped into the spiritual transformation stage. Rays of light began to descend from the sky, and streams of clouds and wind descended straight towards Liu Mo. There was an emergency at the weather station. All radars started warning of the threat. The workers could not believe their eyes. Atmospheric pressure, UV intensity, and radiation levels jumped dramatically. A huge beam of electricity headed towards Liu Mo's direction. Some man in the distance was jubilant that he could record such a sight on camera. Putting it out on social media, people didn't believe it, only remarking that the special effects were top-notch. The man didn't like the fact that people thought his post was a fake, so he went live to prove his honesty. But the broadcast didn't last long. The connection broke down in the first few minutes of the broadcast. While the man was trying to figure out where the connection had gone, the sky darkened even more. Earlier, the yellow lightning almost reached Liu Mo and turned a bluish color. The weather station lost all signal with its satellites and all danger sensors went off. The screen on their computers began to create chaos. The screen was not responding, and there was a large eye in the middle of it. Liu Mo's Golden Child grew even bigger, becoming many times bigger than Liu Mo himself. A light beam with a color like a golden child shot upwards, heading straight for the huge lightning bolt. Seconds before impact, the lightning grew even more powerful. Dahlia was relaxing in the bathtub. Just then her assistant ran in, yelling that they had an emergency. She explained about what was around Liu Mo, the light poles that were by the old construction site. Dahlia thought it was a simple, unusual natural phenomenon, or some Taoist had caused such a terrible calamity. Almost jumping out of the water, Dahlia grabbed her phone, wondering when it happened, to which the assistant replied that it's going on right now. Dahlia jumped out of the water wrapped in a towel and ran to the window. As she opened the curtain, she saw huge beams of light in the distance. Dahlia pinched her assistant to see if she was awake. The assistant was concerned that this was the work of the actual cultivators, to which Dahlia denied it. Why would it be happening at the construction site if cultists usually live by the mountain? The assistant agreed with her, and there was Yuking Mountain nearby. This mountain is deadly, and there have been many incidents on it. Dahlia was on her way to get a closer look at what was going on at the construction site. At the same time, a certain impeccably pure Ian was giving gifts to the streamer. Suddenly, his student came running in, speaking out about the pillars of light. His teacher thought it was nonsense. He refused to believe such nonsense. Although at the same time, the teacher explained that the pillar of light was a phenomenon that caused the cultivator that was about to reach the spirit transformation realm. The condensed oceanic chi of the cultivator creates a force that attracts the tribulation clouds. If a mortal wished to rise, he had to pass the will of the earth test, and if he failed, he would be wiped off the face of the earth. But the teacher added that there are no cultivators in the modern world, to which the student pointed his finger out the window. The teacher hit him again, telling him to stop talking nonsense and do something useful. Liu Mo was already quite close to the soul transformation realm, but he still lacked the foundation yet. Liu Mo needed to soothe his body. He decided to accumulate chi flows first. The Golden Child, on the other hand, has been reduced to its original form. Liu Mo's yellow glow became smaller in front of his eyes. The child returned to her original position in the middle of Liu Mo. The Golden Child adopted a meditation stance identical to Liu Mo's. Golden-colored lines ran down Liu Mo's body. From top to bottom, they covered him. As before, after concentrating, he exclaimed. Only this time, his eyes changed color. They flashed yellow. 2 lasers flew out from Liu Mo's eyes, bringing a lot of destruction in their path. After that, Liu Mo jumped up, coming out of his meditation pose. Liu Mo had descended to the 4th degree innate realm, but his body had become stronger. Now Liu Mo had cultivation textbooks. He should look in them for martial arts or dharmic spells that could be learned. Lightning was sad. Liu Mo left without getting struck by lightning. On his way, Liu Mo opened his phone, but had no network connection. The balance of the phone was 0 yuan. If Liu Mo wanted to continue using the phone, he should have topped it up. If you don't have money on your phone, you can't get in touch with experts, and for Liu Mo, that's a big problem. Liu Mo decided to go back to the mountain and see if he could sell something there. The events were transported back 12 years. A family was walking on the steps at the foot of the mountain. The family was heading upward. It was the 2nd hour they had been walking, and the child still hadn't run out of energy. The woman pleaded with her not to run. The girl stopped and told her mom not to worry, waving her hand in her direction. Turning around, the little girl noticed a butterfly, which interested her very much. She started to reach for the butterfly that was behind the fence at the edge of the steps. Here was the girl already behind the fence on a small rock. She was still reaching for the butterfly. Her parents immediately rushed toward her, yelling for her to come back. But unfortunately, she didn't hear. And before she could do anything, the stone broke, leaving her without a floor. The girl found herself in midair. She started to fall. The branches of the trees caught her, scratching her arms and making cuts in her hands. In a split second, the girl was already well below her parents, falling continuously. Her mother clung to the edge of the cliff, screaming for help, hoping her daughter would be rescued. Pretty soon, the girl was so low she couldn't be seen by her parents from above. While she was already falling hopelessly, someone grabbed the girl and saved her from imminent death. Immediately, the savior began bouncing down the mountain, not slipping or falling at all. He reached a small oasis. Upon reaching the original target, he placed the unconscious girl on a rock. The guy touched the girl on the forehead, which made a small wave of chi surrounding his finger. What the boy had done had put the girl to sleep, and she slept quietly on the rock. In 4 hours, the girl was found by the rescue team. She was without a single wound, which amazed everyone. It was all Dahlia's memories. She later realized that she had been saved by an immortal. Dahlia intended to find this cultivator and thank him specifically. That huge lightning that appeared because of Liu Mo didn't disappear anywhere and was still in the same place. Jiang Jin, or the assistant, Dahlia asked if she had heard anything. Looking out of the car, Jiang Jin thought that this sound was like thunder. Looking out of the car, she saw that the clouds were dispersing. Dahlia asked her assistant to pull the car over. After stopping the car right in front of the place where Liu Mo was doing his ritual, they noticed that everything was already gone. Dahlia was disappointed. It looked like they were late and didn't get everything on camera in time. Jiang Jin was wary. After all, it was nearing evening, and there were plenty of wild animals. She suggested to give up this venture. Dahlia was sure that another miracle could happen. If on the mountain Yu King was truly immortal, then she would definitely find him. Something alarmed Dahlia, and she turned sharply. She pointed her finger to notice something at the abandoned construction site. To Dahlia, the terrain seemed very much like something. Jiang Jin didn't know what she was talking about, just an ordinary old construction site that had been abandoned long ago. Dahlia remembered what she had on her mind. Immediately pulling out her phone, she started searching for something. This place was identical to the one in Liu Mo's video. Jiang Jin had the idea of filming the area and restoring it using programs. The assistant hadn't talked to Liu Mo yet, but she was sure that he would be all for it. Dahlia agreed to Jiang Jin's idea. At the same time, Liu Mo received 20 yuan. He got paid for the garbage he brought in for processing, didn't he? Liu Mo complained that it was too hard to make money. Liu Mo spent 18 yuan on the SIM card. Everything he had earned so hard was gone in a couple of minutes. As soon as he paid, a notification came to him. Liu Mo received 1,000 yuan from Dahlia. 500 yuan was automatically transferred to his account. Such a sum threw Liu Mo into complete shock when he was struggling to get 20, and here he got 1,000. Liu Mo praised Dahlia for her boundless generosity. There was no limit to his joy. Not only had Dahlia shown him the way in cultivation, but she had also helped him financially and saved him from poverty. Before long, Dahlia wrote to Liu Mo, asking if he would like a collaboration. Liu Mo thought that Dahlia wanted to make a video of her teaching him. It was a divine opportunity for him. Without thinking long, Liu Mo immediately agreed to the offer given to him. Liu Mo wanted to give some kind of gift to Dahlia, but he didn't know what to give, so he went to social media to look for answers. Some old man was meditating, and then a bowl opened behind him and a round pill fell out. The sage explained that it was a pill called Return to the Source. Taking it would fill her with chi and also invigorate her body and spirit. It dawned on Liu Mo that he could use these pills as a gift for Dahlia. Liu Mo wrote to the pill seller. Except Liu Mo wanted the same furnace that made the pills. It was a guy's first time. Everyone is writing for pills, and here Liu Mo wanted the furnace itself. After asking if Liu Mo was sure he wanted an oven and not pills, he said he was sure he wanted an oven. The guy was written to by all sorts of people. Scammers, those who wanted their money back, resellers, and so on. But no one wanted the oven itself. The stove itself he bought at a junkyard for 50 yuan, although the stove is heavy. But it is good for the video. Chen Wei is an ordinary medic who became a supposedly immortal cultivator only because his son taught him how to use the internet. Without thinking long, Chen Wei decided that selling would be the best thing to do. He already wanted to replace the furnace a long time ago. Chen Wei didn't answer Liu Mo for a while, and Liu Mo began to worry that Chen Wei had lost any desire to sell the furnace. Considering how much Liu Mo wanted this furnace, Chen Wei agreed for only 500 yuan. Liu Mo wanted to know where the master was so that he could come and buy the furnace immediately, to which he received the answer that Chen Wei was cultivating in the far north and would rather send the furnace to him. Liu Mo was shocked that Chen Wei not only wanted to send the furnace from the very north, but also promised that it would reach tomorrow, even though Liu Mo flying on a sword would take 3 whole days to reach it. It was too good a deal for Liu Mo, and the latter would have to be on his guard in case Chen Wei had evil intentions. Liu Mo had 2 yuan again after such a purchase. In the evening, a courier came to Chen Wei's house to pick up an item for delivery. Chen Wei said they should bring the thing to a location he wrote and just leave it there. The next day, the courier was driving his truck up the mountain, pissed off that someone had decided to drive a 40-pound thing so far into the woods. After pulling up to the tree, the courier dropped the box under the tree indicated at the delivery site. Even moving such an oven for a short time almost broke the courier's back. The courier started to call Liu Mo, but the latter didn't answer. After some time, calls and waiting, the courier left with no response from Liu Mo. Liu Mo himself was sitting in that tree waiting for the courier to leave. As soon as the courier was out of sight, he jumped down from the tree to the bottom of the... With one glance, Liu Mo realized that this was the same pill furnace. With a gust of his palm, Liu Mo broke the box that contained the furnace. Just as easily, he lifted this furnace with one hand. It weighed 35 pounds and was made of good material. An overjoyed Liu Mo ran with his new purchase. For some unknown reason, the delivery man was still there, and noticed Liu Mo, who was handling the rather heavy stove so easily. Upon arriving back at the department, he told his boss Wang that he had seen something incredible today. He said he left the stove by the tree and went to leave. But worrying that someone would steal it, he came back and noticed the man. Showing the photograph, he added that this man had lifted the stove like a feather and walked with it without any labor whatsoever. The boss boasted that he saw something else try. 2 days ago, during Liu Mo made the whole world change, Mr. Wang was delivering something not far from this tree. Looking up then, Mr. Wang saw a flying man. The courier could not believe these words and was surprised. The boss said that this mountain is quite unusual and quite strange. There are all sorts of phenomena on it, and many tycoons have tried to develop those mountains, but every time they failed. After Mr. Wang's advice, the courier confirmed delivery. Chen Wei received a message on his phone, informing him of a successful delivery. On top of that, a video was added to show the success of the delivery. In the video was the same Liu Mo running happily with a stovepipe. Chen Wei couldn't close his mouth in shock. How could someone physically lift such a heavy furnace up a mountain as if it was a feather? It dawned on Chen Wei he could use this video for his channel. Demand for his drugs would have multiplied. But to Chen Wei's surprise, his account was blocked for fraud and untruthful pills. In some hangar, Liu Mo had already started practicing alchemy with this stove. The furnace itself was glowing from the qi that Liu Mo redirected into it. He said the furnace was truly amazing. After a little labor, a single tablet came out of the furnace. Liu Mo used the herbs from the mountain and the exact instructions that the elder left him. If Liu Mo keeps trying and studying this topic, maybe he can make the 9th revolution pills and not worry about money. Liu Mo intended to write to Chen Wei in hopes that he would give him a couple of pill recipes, but he found out that the account had been blocked. Naturally, Liu Mo didn't understand what this was about or why he was blocked. There was another surprise in his bewilderment. He got a call from Dahlia. He couldn't believe Dahlia was calling him, and was happily surprised. Yeah, and without thinking twice, he pressed accept. Taking the call, he found himself on the stream. The commentators immediately began to speculate on what was going on. Liu Mo folded his hands and bowed his head to greet Dahlia. Liu Mo also thanked Dahlia. Without her, he wouldn't have made such a breakthrough in cultivation. The comments were increasingly discussing Liu Mo.
Dahlia calmed Liu Mo down by saying that exchanging advice was a common thing, and also asked a counter-question about where he lived.
This frightened Liu Mo. He can't mindlessly say his location. It would cause a lot of problems. Liu Mo put his hand to his heart and replied that he considered the Four Seas his home, for he traveled very often. But for the moment, he was staying at Mount Yuqing. Smiling, Dahlia said she knew that's where his videos had been taken. Dahlia had seen the place that Liu Mo had destroyed. But even more than that, she had rebuilt it. Instead of Dahlia's camera, a video appeared on the stream. She stood on the devastation that Liu Mo had wrought. Liu Mo realized that this was the place where he destroyed the building. Did Dahlia already know his location? Raising her hand, Dahlia said, "Get up." Gusts of roaring wind flew toward Dahlia. The same winds began to pick up rocks. Stones formed slabs, walls, and bricks. In Liu Mo's opinion, Dahlia should have reached the level of the tribulation realm. She had very good control over spiritual energy. Inundating Dahlia with gifts, commentators saw the result of her abilities. The building fully returned to its original form. Commentators were shocked at the high-quality effects that Dahlia did in that video. Liu Mo bowed his head again and conveyed his admiration over Dahlia with words. Watching Liu Mo's demeanor, Dahlia liked how handsome, elegant he was, and most importantly, he had the aura of an immortal emanating from him. In a flurry of gifts, both smiled at each other, looking directly into the camera. Liu Ma would like to express his gratitude but was broke. But he was already a big debtor to Dahlia. It wouldn't be polite if he was the only one not supporting Dahlia with a present. Liu Mo decided to donate what he had. He donated 15 cans of Coke, which roughly cost 2 yuan. Liu Mo said that he knew donut is small, but this is what he was able to get by hard work. Dahlia thought since Liu Mo was making such videos, he must be quite rich. But in her opinion, he wasn't lying. Dahlia praised his special effects and said she understood why money might be an issue, immediately afterward offering to join her team. Liu Mo was puzzled. He just went into the app. Record. Then stops and loads it. Dahlia's face changed, thinking he was lying, and asked if that was all he was doing for the video. To which Liu Mo, still not understanding what it was all about, replied that that was it. Dahlia thought he just didn't want to work with them. Liu Mo revealed that he decided to create his own pill and give it to Dahlia. However, he had only recently started learning Dao alchemy. He had everything but the formulas. Liu Mo added a question. Could Dahlia teach him how to make rank 1 medicines? Dahlia thought about it. Normally she would be asked to dance or sing, but clearly not the creation of pills. Half of the commenters were ridiculing some kind of pills. Liu Mo added that there were 9 ranks of medicines. Deep Soul Cure was considered the best medicine. The ingredients were easy to get, but he didn't know how to start the manufacturing process. Perfectly Clean Yang discounted some recipe in the comments. An assistant entered Young's perfectly clean chambers and asked him to get back to work. The assistant said Yang broke the rules by reporting the pill recipe, and she could have reported to the top brass. The master yelled, saying that teaching the unborn generation was the best thing he could do. With a smirk, the assistant mockingly asked why he was donating rockets to Dahlia if he should be given gifts for mentoring him. The assistant worried that he shouldn't have thrown the formula around like that, to which the teacher said nothing could go wrong. Yang was calm. Even the strongest alchemists don't take on pills like this. Also, the assistant had the task to investigate the place where the phenomenon made by Liu Mo was. The higher-ups referred to the natural phenomenon. The assistant suggested that it could be a cultivator. At the same moment, Yang hit him, saying that there were no cultivators in this world. Caught up in the assistant's mind, accepted that Yang was right. The small wooden cabin that held a place in the woods wriggled in a bluish aura. Liu Mo practiced alchemy, sitting over a furnace. One leaf flew up in a slide of leaves. It was golden in color. Liu Mo used 2 fingers to control the leaf in the air. He slowly lowered the leaf into the oven. Concentrating, he folded his hands together. There was a blue slurry in the oven, and the leaf fell in and lost all its color. The leaf began to crack, and soon there was not a trace of it in sight. Liu Mo was immersing all sorts of things into the furnace, such as Xuanming fruit, Qingming dew, 1000-year-old Highlander. After extracting all of the ingredients, there was only one step left to take. Liu Mo exclaimed, "Forma." The furnace blazed with different colors, forming a core. Forming the core of the furnace, radiated colors all over the cabin, scaring Liu Mo. Opening the lid of the stove, steam came out. The pills gave off piles of vapor. An overjoyed Liu Mo said that he had finally succeeded. Taking the pill, Liu Mo sniffed it first. Tasting the pill, it immediately melted in the mouth. Upon consumption, the body felt as if burned by a cold fire. This pill cleansed the body of impurities. But the pill's action was pretty weak. Maybe the problem was in the formula. But according to the instruction and advice of the masters, such formulas have been made for hundreds of years, so Liu Mo was not afraid to talk about it. With a sigh, Liu Mo was a bit tired and expended a lot of spiritual qi. And then it dawned on him from his own words, spiritual qi can act as a vessel for healing effects. According to the pill manual, Liu Mo should have infused strength into the pill, which would increase the effect. Liu Mo decided to try this theory right away, swirling the qi streams. Liu Mo first coated the extracts with his spiritual qi, then he would add some mental power to them. Trying this technique of connecting everything made more colors appear than before. The cabin was emanating streams of steam more and more. The steam had spread so far that it covered half the mountain. Now the vapor had already become fog. The weather station recorded that the summit of Yuqing Mountain was covered with thick fog. The workers of the weather station have not even had time to investigate the past phenomenon, as a new anomaly has already appeared. The director said to keep a clear eye on the anomaly, while he called the higher-ups. In the middle of the furnace, things went differently. The chi flows became stronger and more colorful. Gusts of chi blew everything around and glowed many times brighter than before. Liu Mo was already covered in sweat from the hardships and was getting even more tired. It came to a climax. Liu Mo cried out, "Devour!" Streams of chi flowed into the pill, surrounding it more and more. The fog formed a large lily flower on the peak of the mountain. The man who tried to film the first phenomenon was nearby and now with a camera at his side. At the same time, Liu Mo was intensifying the actions even further. A powerful gust blew away that lily of the mist on top of the mountain. But now a different silhouette has begun to take shape. After forming, a huge azure dragon appeared, that even began to roar. But he wasn't alone. There was also a saber-toothed white tiger at his side. The man's eyes bulged, and all he could do was wonder. The director of the weather station called the man in the skyscraper, and the man heard his problem and told them to keep watching all of this. The man told the guard to get the helicopter ready. He was going to see what was happening on Yuqing Mountain in person. The fog dispersed more and more in Liu Mo's endeavors. Just like the first time, he exclaimed, "Form up," trying with all his might. A very different color pill formed. It was now pink. Tired to the bone, Liu Mo was insanely happy. It had worked after all. The lid of the furnace fell off, and a great torrent of steam spurted into the sky. Liu Mo got a dozen of these special pills. Eating the pill, Liu Mo felt like there was an ocean filled with chi. A powerful wave of cold fire travels down the throat before spreading through the bloodstream. This pill was dozens of times stronger than the previous one. Liu Mo underestimated this furnace, a first-class furnace. But in Liu Mo's opinion, these pills are still not perfect because the one is still weak. He wanted to try to increase the concentration of spiritual and mental power. The pill he had swallowed returned some of the spiritual power, so there was no harm in another try. With a wave of his hand, he lifted all the leaves into the air. Dahlia was on the stream at the time. Yang was doling out more of Dahlia's missiles with his own money. The assistant alerted the foreman that a helicopter was approaching them. It really scared Yang. He didn't understand why he was here again. Director Wu from the Supernatural Investigation Department flew in because he didn't understand. Lifting his chin, Yang confidently said that they as cultivators had a responsibility to help the world, to which he received a taunt from the assistant, that before meeting with Director Wu, he'd been working on hand divination. After getting hooked on Dahlia's streamers, Yang spent all his money on her, causing the already poor sect to fall even lower. After listening to everything the assistant said, Yang only slapped him again, saying that he shouldn't teach the scholar. Young's assistant or son was angry because how was he supposed to get married if all the money was spent on Dahlia's streamers? To which Young scoffed that he didn't even hold the woman's hand. But their Sora was interrupted by a helicopter flying up to their temple. Director Wu stepped out of the helicopter heading for the entrance. Coming out of the temple, both said hello in the traditional way. The director explained that there was a phenomenon on Yuqing Mountain that they couldn't explain. He hoped Yang could figure out what it was about. While Young was pondering, his son threw in that he knew what he was talking about. According to him, it was once again the master who brought the tribulation upon himself. Getting hit over the head again, Young said. Those have to believe in science. Director Wu invited Yang to the helicopter and said he would tell more details on the way out. A dazzling phoenix appeared in the defeat of the Azure Dragon and White Tiger, and the very last of the 4 defenders came to his post. The head of a dragon, the body of a turtle, and the tail of a snake. It was a black turtle. The man started filming the whole thing in fear, launching the stream. He shouted that all 4 defenders had appeared and swore it wasn't special effects. Director Wu revealed the latest video of what was done at Yuqing Mountain. Young asked why the director was so sure it wasn't special effects, to which he replied, it was not the only video. Moreover, there were different angles. And the cherry on the cake, the weather station recorded electromagnetic oscillations. Yang smelled the pills, which shocked him. He opened the helicopter door, saying it was impossible. Yang could smell the pill's odor from as far away as this. What kind of strength pill must be to spread such a powerful odor, thought he. Master Yang said to increase the speed. He wanted to see what was out there as quickly as possible. Almost at full speed, they rushed toward the target. Flying toward the mountain, they saw 4 defenders in the sky. While everyone was looking at the defenders, Master Yang disappeared from his seat. Yang summoned a sword and began to fly on it, the smell getting stronger and stronger. It was probably the smell that had summoned the defenders, but even Yang couldn't perform such a thing. At the same time, Dahlia was finishing her streamer. As the commenters were saying goodbye, the last commenter said there were 4 divine protectors on the mountain and asked Dahlia to record a stream there. Dahlia realized that some immortal on Yuking Mountain. Her hopes were that it was the same one who had saved her 12 years ago. Liu Mo, on the other hand, was combining the ingredients. Now his chi streams had turned a red hue. Now for the 3rd time he exclaimed, "Form up!" Now putting even more strength into the pills. Tweaking the formula to perfection at his place, a golden pill came out. The divine protectors cheered and made shouting sounds. An explosion of air formed on the tower of Yukin Mountain. Only the creation of this pill took away 99% of Liu Mo's spiritual power. Standing up from the floor and holding his head, Liu Mo realized that even pills could be dangerous. But it's good that it worked out. After the explosion, the fog dissipated a bit, but it also began to emit a small yellow light. Yang flew to the incident site with all his might. He hoped that he could see a real cultivator. The pill that Liu Mo created could make a person's life 100 years longer, which is true. It was useless for those with congenital stage. Sighing, he thought that he had no talent in alchemy after all. At least this time, Liu Mo had unexpected benefits from the purification process. Having comprehended the Tao Te Ching, Liu Mo had risen to the 9th step. With the goals of tempering his body, he had descended to the 4th step. And now his spiritual energy had entered his body and lowered him to the 1st step. But this also had positive aspects. Liu Mo could store twice as much spiritual energy as before. Walking out of the lodge with a sigh of relief, Liu Mo took a deep breath. He noticed that there were new trees and bushes, though he didn't take long to make the pills. Looking up, he saw another surprise. The black turtle, the azure dragon, the white tiger, and the bird of the south. All 4 defenders were in attendance. Liu Mo remembered that the master's notes said, "The arrival of 4 defenders was a great fortune." It is unknown why this phenomenon appeared, but Liu Mo had to cultivate as hard as possible. Yang had entered the path of cultivation decades ago, and from his observations, the spiritual qi of this world had degraded so much that it was now almost impossible to find true cultivators. However, 3 days ago, there was a pillar of light that descended from the heavens. This phenomenon only happens when a high-level cultivator is ready to break through. Yang realized that the phenomenon on the mountain was the preparation of a pill of the highest quality, and there must surely be a cultivator of the highest degree, although it was more likely that even an immortal was there. Master Yang hoped that if he met him, he could achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation. The spiritual qi was getting denser and denser as Yang approached. It had to be that it was an immortality pill. Liu Mo smelled that someone was here, and immediately realized that it was a cultivator. Yang only needed to breathe such spiritual qi to be filled with energy. He could even feel the impurities in his body being cleansed with every breath. The mere flavor of the pill was enough to make Yang healthier. As he ran, Yang tripped and kicked his foot. Liu Mo could feel the cultivator rushing towards him. The 4 guards must have attracted the cultivator, but this world was different from the future. In the future, people slit each other's throats for any reason. But here, everyone was kinder and more generous. Liu Mo has decided it's better to give Yang a thrashing. He will absorb some of the spiritual qi that was formed here and leave some to the creatures, and woe. Liu Mo told the kid to get up. Spiritual qi began to swirl and flow into Liu Mo. The qi was so abundant that it created a beam of light that rushed into the sky. Yang noticed that qi was going towards this pillar of light. Spiritual qi has risen to the 4 guardians of the world, and the beam pierced each of the guards. And then they were gone. Gone like they never existed. The clouds began to part, illuminating Yuking Mountain. Liu Mo floated in the air, enveloped in a golden aura. The man who filmed the event only marveled at such beauty. Being able to shoot something that beautiful motivated the man to become a videographer. Making his way through the grass, Yang was in thick and pure spiritual qi. 1 breath was equal to years of his cultivation. He was surprised that some person was able to summon such dense spiritual qi that covered the entire mountain. While looking at Liu Mo's hut, Yang heard his own words. Liu Mo wondered why he had made his way to him. Yang was numb when he heard the immortal. Ducking his head, Chun Yang apologized for disturbing Liu Mo. Yang's name sounded familiar, but Liu Mo liked that he was polite. Liu Mo calmed down Yang and asked what he was doing here. Yang cleared his throat and asked what clan or sect Liu Mo was in. Liu Mo didn't want to tell the truth that he was alone, because it could be taken advantage of. With an important voice, Liu Mo said that his master had separated from the mortal world and did not like to interfere in worldly affairs. Yang was stunned. Liu Mo's strength was at the zenith of the entire earth. Yet he also has a master who theoretically surpassed his level. Liu Mo asked a counter question whether the one was from the sect. Bowing his head even lower, Yang said that he was not in the sex and was just a lone cultivator. Seeing the phenomenon that Liu Mo had done, Yang decided to come here and try his luck. Hearing the grass crackling in front of him, Yang raised his head in surprise. It was Liu Mo in the form of a misty body. He said there is no immortal treasure here. Yang accepted Liu Mo's words, but he couldn't see how he looked because of Liu Mo's strength. Chunyang started leafing towards Liu Mo, taking note of his aura and skill. Later, Yang asked for some advice on the topic of the Tao De Jing. Liu Mo understood what Yang understood about the use of the Tao De Jing, but with a smirk, Liu Mo said that this was a technique that anyone could apply, just need to clear their mind and feel the great Tao. With joy in his eyes, Yang hoped that Liu Mo would teach him something. Liu Mo heard that the people were approaching and was thinking of how to get them away. Director Wu flew up in his helicopter. Turning around, Yang saw that Liu Mo was creating gusts of air in his hand. Raising his hand, he let a line of air blow toward the helicopter. The helicopter was surrounded by streams of qi along with the air. The air became foggy. The electronics were experiencing interference on the helicopter. If they started flying, there was a good chance of crashing. Director Wu ordered to hang in one place. The fog enveloping the helicopter was spiritual qi. Yang's assistant realized that, and he also realized that it was the work of an immortal. Falling to his knees, Yang asked to forgive the ignorance of the common people. It was his fault for bringing them along. Surprised, Liu Mo didn't understand whether a cultivator of such a low stage could have disciples. Liu Mo asked if they had any evil intentions, to which Yang Mo denied it and said he would take them away immediately. Liu Mo laughed. Yang was afraid that he might have killed them, but Liu Mo didn't even have a thought of that. Yang was surprised and happy at the same time. Liu Mo wouldn't hurt his men. Immediately, Liu Mo made a new spell, forming something with his hand. Yellow flags started flying out of the shack, flying up the mountain. The flags were all over the mountain surrounding it. Liu Mo had created a form inside the mountain. Ordinary people would no longer be able to enter this place. If they turned back, they would be trapped here. In the Sokor, Liu Mo did another spell. The fog disappeared and the helicopter got all its functions back. Director Wu said to increase the altitude. They will wait on Yang. The helicopter began to fly away, flying higher and higher. With peace of mind, Yang wondered if he could ask one more question. Yang said he had never seen someone as strong as Liu Mo, and Yang asked for help with training. To which Liu Mo immediately agreed. Yang became immensely pleased. Liu Mo would accept all of Yang's questions and would be waiting for him at the foot of the mountain. However, the latter said not to spread the word about it since Liu Mo likes tranquility. Yang agreed to Liu Mo's terms and thanked him endlessly. Chunyang was happily walking away from the scene. Along the way, Yang burned some paper. Raising his head, Yang turned to the elder and boasted that he had met a true immortal. The helicopter was still waiting on Yang, holding in the air. Very quickly, the helicopter door began to open. It was Yang. He flew to the helicopter. With a serious face, he said it was time for them to get out if they didn't want to die. The white-haired guy was sitting in the temple. The paper that Yang had burned had been transmitted to him, and he had heard that immortals still existed in the regular world. After which the guy told the piece of paper to go back to the sender. Liu Mo could be calm when Yang left the mountain, though it was still worth it to be on guard. For the past 2 days, Liu Mo has been separated from the internet and received 4 new messages. It was Dahlia, who wished to meet and was eager to hear back from Liu Mo. Liu Ma finally answered by asking what Dahlia wanted. Dahlia was angry. She thought he'd hit his head while cultivating the... Receiving another message, it stated that Dahlia was heading to the capital and would stream there. It would take 7 days, then she was free for a meeting. Even Dahlia had to travel and sell items. Liu Mo's opinion on making money was too hard to make money on. The pills that Liu Mo made wouldn't help Dahlia, but could refresh her. That was Liu Mo's new idea. Liu Mo asked if he could find out where Dahlia was, so he could send her a gift. She said yes and texted the name of the town. Unfortunately, the assistant said the phenomenon had already started to disappear and she was late again. That's when Dahlia suggested we go home. She was tired from the late-night streamer. The assistant had to work extra hours to drive Dahlia home. Turning the car around, Dahlia said she'd ask for a raise. Liu Mo came to the delivery company and asked them to bring the box to Dahlia's house. Shipping cost 15 yuan. Liu Mo, on the other hand, only had 2 yuan to spare. Liu Mo's excuse was that whoever got the package would pay the check. Liu Mo's new message arrived on his phone. He had reached the right number of views. Now his account could be an affiliate and sell things. This made Liu Mo happy. He could sell a batch of pills that he had developed, but he didn't know how much to sell them for, and the formula wasn't his. The stove cost 500 yuan, which is quite cheap. Liu Mo collected herbs from the mountain and made 10 pills from them. After Liu Mo's calculations, he came to the conclusion of a price of 100 wen. Liu Mo put his pills up for sale, writing that they would bring immortality and a leap in cultivation. Some man scoffed at Liu Mo's pills, confidently thinking it was a scam. People who claimed about pills bringing immortality or a panacea for everything were probably frauds. At least that's what this man thought. The man's dog barked in response to everything he said. The man did get caught up in the words, "Immortality is just around the corner." In the end, the man snapped out of it and bought the pills. 100 wen was practically pennies compared to how much he spent on cultivation. Immediately afterward, the man went for a walk with his dog, named Sanqing. In the evening, the skyscraper where Dahlia did her streamings had its own events. An assistant walked into Dahlia's chambers saying she brought a gift from fans. The sender's address was from the Great Banyan Tree. The first time, she had to pay the money for the delivery herself. When they opened the box, they saw a golden pill that began to spread its odor around the room. They both liked the smell of the pill unrealistically much. The smell was so good it was like Dahlia had woken up from a wonderful dream. After which, she had a lovely and hearty lunch, then a relaxing massage and treatments at the spa. Energy flowed through Dahlia's body. That smell was beautiful in Dahlia's eyes. With a sharp pop, Dahlia closed the pill box. The thing was odd. Dahlia decided it was best to put the box away for now. It was clearly something out of the ordinary for her. Leaving the box in her locker, Dahlia headed toward the studio. The delivery arrived to the man who ordered the pill for himself. Upon receiving the box, it seemed strange, so small and mysterious. Opening the same box, the man noticed a pill and thought it was a plastic balloon. Throwing the box to the floor in a rage, the man was angry that it was scam again. Taking out his phone in anger, he opened a website with Liu Mo for sale, after which he blocked Liu Mo's account. A man decides to go partying to calm down. The dog came over and sniffed the pill. Sanqing swallowed the pill. With a yawn, Dahlia entered the room. She was very tired after the streamer. Her whole room was covered in pill smoke. The smell was coming from her locker. This pill stunk even more. Looking at the pill, it was like she was asking to be eaten. There was no one in the studio. Hardly anyone would know if Dahlia ate the pill. She couldn't contain herself and swallowed the pill. Dahlia was startled when the pill melted in her mouth, but she worried too much. But already she had calmed down and wanted to go to sleep as quickly as possible. Abruptly, she was awakened by the pain in her chest and the shaking of her body. Dahlia's heart was beating so fast it hurt. She already thought it was poison. The man who popped the pill was driving with his friend. The friend asked what he had already done in cultivation, to which Kyle replied that this whole cultivation thing is a bunch of crap. Kyle's friend gave him a ride home and told him not to stay out too late. Getting out of the car, Kyle lit a cigarette. Thinking about cultivation again, he became agitated and threw the cigarette on the floor before putting it out with his foot. Kyle stormed into the house, muttering something to himself. He didn't think cultivation was necessary when he was rich. Sanqing sat on a chair drinking expensive wine. Kyle's face changed when he heard human speech from his dog. Sanqing scoffed at the fact that Kyle stood dumbfounded. Opening his mouth, Kyle thought he'd had too much to drink. Running up to Sanqing, he asked if he was awake, to which the dog slapped him in the face. Then Sanqing asked if it hurt. Kyle said yes. Sanqing replied, Kyle didn't dream then. Now Kyle has to go by Sanqing's rules. Saying that this was now his home, the dog ordered Kyle to buy more pills. Kyle was furious that after all the years he'd raised the dog, he was so ungrateful. Kyle's punch was unsuccessful and Sanqing simply kicked him to the side. The dog stood up and told his side of the story. Kyle fed him the same tasteless food every day, locked him up when he left, put him on a leash, and most terrifying of all, cut off his balls. Sanqing said he'd love Kyle too. So from now on, Kyle will listen to Sanqing. The assistant came to the studio and didn't see Dahlia. Knocking, she said, going into Dahlia's room. Dahlia was covered in a grayish slime that had a very unpleasant odor to it. Last night, when her heart began to ache, Dahlia also began to sweat at an abnormal rate. Dahlia went into the shower to wash it all off. Walking into the shower room, the assistant looked surprised. Dahlia glowed, her skin lighter and clearer, and Dahlia herself was literally glowing. Also, her skin became smoother and more pleasant to the touch. Dahlia admitted that all she did was eat that weird pill. While trying to open the bottle, Dahlia ripped the cap off and poured out all the water by accident. She didn't realize when she'd gotten so strong. The assistant pulled her to the hospital, but Dahlia resisted. She accidentally pulled it and threw it over herself, after which she immediately apologized. Dahlia's changes were too strange, and yet they went to the hospital. All of Dahlia's pain was gone. Also, her back and stomach had no more problems. The tree where the package came from was on Yuking Mountain, so Dahlia's theory was that an immortal could have sent her the pill. It dawned on Dahlia. Lu Mo wanted to send a gift and lived near this tree, which meant it had to be him. While picking flowers, Lu Mo received a message. Dahlia turned to Lu Mo, calling him immortal. She had a question. She clarified about the pill she ate yesterday, as if she had been reborn after it. Liu Mo couldn't understand how she could be reborn from the pill. To a cultivator of her level, Liu Mo's pill would have no effect other than replenishing energy. Liu Mo thought that someone else had sent a pill, so he said that this one wasn't from him. Dahlia wondered who it could be, while the assistant muttered something about Liu Mo. The assistant asked what Dahlia was doing. Dahlia came up with a plan. She would buy every possible cultivation pill to see which one was the right one. A confident Dahlia would have found that pill. Liu Mo sneezed loudly, almost falling over. His hair got caught in his nose, but then he changed his face. He felt someone coming. It was Yang and his student. They were intent on cultivating on Yuking Mountain. Chunyang asked Fugui if he was feeling anything right now, to which he replied that Fugui was tired. But Chunyang could feel himself growing stronger from the air here, all because he could sense the spiritual qi that was on that mountain. Fugui asked if he could cultivate to become immortal, to which he was asked if he knew what immortality was. In Fugui's opinion, they were the ones with boundless strength, but that wasn't the case. Chunyang told me that immortals are also human beings. They have 7 emotions, 6 passions, desires, and needs. Some are evil and some are not. Placing his hand on Fugui's head, Chunyang added that he could only bring him to the beginning of his cultivation. There are many mystical things that Fugui will have to learn on his own. When they arrived at the place, they stopped to unpack their things. Yang sat down in a meditation pose and said that today he would show Fugui how to absorb spiritual qi. Fugui was to concentrate and absorb, collect the qi cycle, cleanse the body of impurities, and compact the dan. Streams of spiritual qi surrounded Fugui and Chunyang. Liu Mo watched them from far away. With a quick glance, Liu Mo recognized Chunyang. As Liu Mo continued to watch them, he noticed that Chunyang was on the verge of a breakthrough, and the young guy behind him was not bad next to him. Chunyang summoned a ray of light that strove into the sky. Yang's ray attracted an azure dragon. Chunyang's eyes began to glow with a blue hue. Fugui watched and wondered if Chunyang was able to break through or not. Chunyang was able to break through. He had been in the 2nd stage for over 30 years, and only now, thanks to Liu Mo's spiritual qi, he was able to surpass his limits and gain dozens more years of life. Liu Mo swept that Chunyang's cultivation is too weak, his talent is too small. Each of Huixia's dozens of cultivators would get stuck on building a foundation for many years. At least a decade would pass before someone could break through further. Now Chunyang was the top Taoist amongst all of Huaxia. Liu Mo appeared behind Chunyang, startling both of them. Yang immediately realized it was Liu Mo, just from the mere reminder of his aura. Fugui stood puzzled while Chunyang bowed in greeting. Taking Fugui by the head, Chunyang told the man to bow down. Fugui didn't understand why he was an expert. He looked like an ordinary guy who wasn't much older than Fugui. Chunyang apologized as best he could for Fugui's words. Liu Mo was not offended, but asked what they wished for on Mount Yuki. Thanks to Liu Mo, the mountain became a sacred place for cultivation. Chunyang and Fugui only wanted to cultivate on the mountain. Liu Mo liked that the old man was very polite, but it was just one stage, you shouldn't be so emotional. After the breakthrough, Chunyang wanted to go on a journey, find the sect, and help Fugui become on the path of cultivation. Chunyang asked Liu Mo's opinion, to which Liu Mo replied that it was their business, and he had no right to decide it for them. Liu Mo also had a question. He wanted to know if Chunyang knew any outstanding sects. Chunyang didn't understand why such a professional didn't know about the situation in the world, although it could be justified by Yang's logic. For all the time Liu Mo had been training, he might have lost contact with the outside world altogether. Heavenly Tao was damaged, and spiritual qi was in decline as a result. Cultivators were hiding. Regarding the sects, Chunyang did not know their numbers. Looking skeptically at Yang, Liu Mo thought that the cultivators were pretending to be ordinary people. Clearly, he hadn't seen them. Looking at Liu Mo again, Chunyang considered him. Liu Mo really did have the aura of an immortal around him. Chunyang didn't think that the Golden Foundation stage could be surpassed, but seeing Liu Mo, his opinion changed in a split second. Liu Mo waved his hand away, saying that he didn't come even close to true professionals. Of course, it shocked both Chunyang and Fugui. Bowing his head, Chunyang wanted to know Liu Mo's virtuous name. Without any ado, Liu Mo calmly introduced himself. Chunyang promised that he would not reveal Liu Mo's name, and that both of them would not disturb Liu Mo again. After a sentimental dialogue, Chunyang and Fugui began to descend the mountain. As soon as they turned their backs, Liu Mo disappeared. Fuquei reported that Liu Mo was missing and asked Yang if he was really immortal, to which he received a nod. Chun Yang intended to set Fuquei on the right path and show him the world. Kyle texted Liu Mo. He asked for tons more pills and was willing to pay 10,000 yuan for each one. Liu Mo was calculating how much yuan he could get for such a deal. Kyle had a plan to eat the pills in front of the dog and kick its ass. Liu Mo was very strange. He came out of nowhere and is willing to pay that kind of money. Unless it's a scammer. In the past world, the elders warned about good-natured people who like to give things away for free. But they're all liars, and if you take from them, it'll come back to bite you. Liu Mo was angry that he hoped to deceive him so easily. Kyle was a bit surprised. His proffer was rejected and accused of attempted deception. Kyle tried to still write that it wasn't true or make excuses. But it was too late. He was already blacklisted. For Kyle, it was a shock and a tragedy at the same time. Sanqing walked over to Kyle and told him to buy pills instead of whining. Kyle revealed that Liu Mo had blocked him. Sanqing taunted that Kyle was going to be killed. But Sanqing only scoffed. Of course, Liu Mo wouldn't care and would just continue to ignore Kyle. Sanqing added, "The person who sells the pills is either a middleman or an immortal himself. If it is an ordinary person, then there is no point in being afraid." Kyle remembered that Sanqing used to be a stupid dog that ate its own shit or chased its tail. Now he was calm, collected, and smart. Looking at Kyle with a sideways glance, Sanqing asked about the pills. Kyle originally wanted to buy all the pills he had on him, but found himself blacklisted. Sanqing suggested that he buy everything in his online store. Liu Mo saw that his pills were sold out and it was the same Kyle. Since he bought it normally, Liu Mo will sell him the pills. Dahlia was streaming again. The format of her stream was unusual this time around. The topic of this stream was called Fake Cultivation Pills. Dahlia's viewers noticed that she became many times more beautiful and only showered her with more compliments. At the start of the stream, Dahlia already had 5 million likes and 100,000 viewers. Dahlia ordered all of the cultivation pills, and on the stream she intended to test all of them so that others would not fall for this scam. The first one on the way was a gold pill base, cost 1,888 yuan. The pill was said to be made of many herbs, but it was actually a caramel with sugar inside it. To craft a pill, the alchemist must extract the essence from the herbs and process it. Crafting takes a long time. Therefore, you should be careful when choosing cultivation pills. The comments from the people who were watching the live broadcast made Liu Mo fidget. The Elder Velvet Fairy told about all the cheaters, and most importantly, people supported and trusted her. But the question was, who sold her such a pacifier that she was so angry? The only thing that saved Liu Mo was that he didn't tell her the truth about the pill when he sold it to her. At worst, he would become one of the people who fooled her. Liu Mo definitely lacked the Tao of alchemy. Selling pills couldn't be done anymore. But the most important thing is his cultivation. Everything else is just an appendix. The live broadcast was still going on. The Velvet Fairy had gotten the hang of it and was scaring people with her truth. It turns out that pills are even made of glue. It is very dangerous to buy such things from sellers. Dahlia's live stream was back on top and even broke her own record. Only that didn't make her very happy. After all, she'd never found the real pill. And accordingly, she didn't know who the mysterious sender might be. User Emperor Kyle has donated over 1,000 super rockets live. In this way, he tried to attract attention to himself and reported about his case, how his dog became 10 times smarter. People did not believe it and only mocked the poor guy. But Dahlia was the only one who took the message seriously, and asked the assistant to put Emperor Kyle on a separate monitor. Maybe this man knew something. If everyone doubts, why not invite our friend Emperor Kyle to the broadcast to prove that his dog has indeed wised up? If he's willing to show her, Kyle was only too happy to accept the invitation to go live, and immediately stepped in. Dahlia said hello sweetly, without any mockery, but Kyle felt very awkward, as it wasn't often that he got to speak to such a large number of onlookers. He didn't need to say anything, though. The dog immediately threw his master off the live feed with his paw. Now everyone saw the very dog the guy was talking about. What's more, he was not embarrassed as a man, but charismatically interacted with the girl, trying to win her heart. But from the outside, it was more frightening and perverted. The talking dog was impressive, but it also raised doubts, as if it was just a man dressed in a dog costume. Are all dogs with humans for fun? If any of the authorities catch him, this dog can give them a decent fight back. The man re-entered the airwaves, letting people know that he was right, and cultivators. Spirits were not just a rumor, but the real truth. The broadcast interrupted. Dahlia didn't even have time to say anything, just silently pondered what she had seen. For heaven's sake, Kyle turned off the live broadcast, for this could be trouble. Sanchin wasn't familiar with human society, and if the authorities really did visit them, Kyle wouldn't be able to help. Sanchin wasn't the least bit intimidated by this. He seemed ready for such an encounter, and he also ordered Kyle to run to get an extra portion of alcohol. The latter was afraid of Sanchin and didn't even try to argue with him. The connection with Emperor Kyle had broken. The Velvet Fairy was already saying goodbye to her audience. Delia stormed over to her co-worker with the news she saw on the live broadcast. Zhang Jin was watching the broadcast and of course heard about it. But Delia was so out of breath that Zhang paused her. It was easy to find out if it was a montage or not. The producer was trained in such things, so Zhang Jin approached him about the case. The test will take some time. We'll know the results tomorrow. The doctor checked Dahlia, but she could use a little extra caution. The girl still couldn't let go of that situation, for if that pill made the dog wise, then such a pill could be from the same person as hers. The question remains, who is this person? A slow cultivator? He'd denied it last time, but why did Dahlia still think it was him? Liu Mo continued to cultivate. It seemed like nothing could bother him right now and bring him out of such a trance. But one new message. The Velvet Fairy was still able to distract Liu Mo from cultivating. Dahlia suggested that Liu Mo meet up, and the guy got excited like a child. He was indeed glad to go with such a girl for a meeting of sorts. However, Dahlia was glad too at his agreement. But the realization that this could be a trap suddenly stopped Liu Mo. After all, just a short time ago, Dahlia had exposed the cheaters, and now she wanted to meet him. On the other hand, with her abilities, would she need to think of something to fool a born cultivator like him? In fact, if Liu Mo refuses to meet, she will get angry, and there might be unimaginable consequences from it. Therefore, one should not be careless. Liu Mo should choose a suitable place, so that if anything happens, he will escape. Such a place. This is the foot of Yuqing Mountain. The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night. It's good to see that Liu Mo will at least make some money, and will be able to treat the eldest to tea like a true gentleman. The next day at the office, one thing that had everyone excited was that dog from the live broadcast was now on the news. As it turns out, the dog owner's name is indeed Kyle. The dog's breed is husky, and he walks on his hind legs. For official news, it was the ultimate sensation. And for Sanchin, this is a stellar hour where he can make himself a truly popular personality. The reporters couldn't stop asking Kyle questions. He accidentally ordered a pill on the internet thinking it was nothing. Fed it to his dog, and now he had a genius dog. Someone from yesterday's broadcast told the news about the dog, and reporters immediately found where the dog lived and went there. If Kyle bought the pill, he knows where to get it. Dahlia was filled with determination and was ready to go to Kyle's house right now. That same day, the girls went to the airport. Zhang Jin couldn't leave her friend alone, and of course went with her. They made idle small talk, but at one point Dahlia remembered something. After all, she has a meeting with a slow cultivator scheduled for tonight. Jin saw such a meeting as a date and offered to reschedule it for tomorrow. Liu Mo was constantly sneezing, but it was hard to say that he was sick. The guy was already in place and waiting for the Velvet Fairy. Would she come on a date? Meanwhile, there was a huge crowd of people outside Kyle's house. They were all crazy about Sanchin and his master, and said all sorts of strange things like, "I want to have children with you." Kyle was too reckless. He hadn't expected that the fact that the dog was talking would attract a lot of attention, and now they couldn't even leave the house. Kyle started to admonish Sanchin, after all. The host had warned him, and now that live broadcast was going to come back to haunt them. But even the fact that these people would try to steal the pills didn't scare Sanchin at all. Something had to be done. So Kyle decided to let everyone know that his dog was just a montage. If people realized they'd been tricked, they'd probably leave. Sanchin continued to act so nonchalant. He didn't seem to care about any problems at all. As soon as Kyle stepped outside the threshold, someone was already waiting for him, the ones he feared. The Supernatural Phenomenon Investigation Bureau asked right now for Sanqing Yu and Kayla to come with them. Kyle wasn't just going to go, and even pretended he hadn't heard of the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations. So why would he go with strangers? A perfect reason to send the authorities away altogether. But as a rule, such people are very hard to get rid of once they have their eye on you. And if you fight back, they'll be even tougher. The Bureau representatives did show up unannounced, so they took it upon themselves to call Kyle's father. But it wasn't they who spoke to him, it was his son. The father was very much displeased at this call, and in the strictest tone ordered his son to go with his men. Kyle was afraid of his father, and dared not cross him. With difficulty and fear of him, he had to agree. On a bus not filled with people was a young man who grimaced as if he had eaten a whole lemon. He became uncomfortable at the thought that he had been studying with the master for almost 20 years now. But this was the first time he had heard about the sect. After the breakthrough, the master's aura had completely changed. His spirit is like a sword, and his spiritual chi is overflowing. Does that mean that everyone in the sect is so powerful? Is it really possible for everyone to cultivate immortality and do all these things? A question arose in his mind, and he dared to ask the teacher. But the one was busy looking at pictures of young girls, and at the student's rebuke for this, he felt no shame. Fortunately, at the same moment, he received a call from Director Wu. As it turns out, the dog situation has caught up with the master as well. The bureau needs Dao Shi, for without him they will find it difficult to sort things out. Dao Shi had already seen about it on the news, and thought it was a complete hoax. Director Wu began to explain otherwise, for the master and the dog were in their custody. Oh, just what kind of saint gave a dog spirituality? Dao Shi understood and promised to be on site in half an hour. The master immediately asked the driver to stop the bus, on the pretext that his wife was in labor. The driver also threw them in a little bit on top of that, because it was a big event. And it's amazing how energetic the old man is, at that age and still having new children. The bus driver marveled at that. The city was 300 kilometers from their current location. How do you get there in half an hour? The teacher thought it was very simple, and abruptly took the student's hand, and then ran at full speed toward the city. Kyle and San Chin stared at each other awkwardly. The guards had been keeping them under their watch for more than 1 hour. What they wanted from them? The detainees did not know. Kyle had been sitting in the same spot for the past hour, only now daring to ask Principal Wu what they were waiting for. However, Wu didn't harbor any special secrets and was willing to say. The first thing the principal asked was to behave themselves when they met the man, and if they pissed him off, he might destroy their entire clan. The case was serious, and it really scared the guys. Wu wanted to say something else, but didn't have time. The man who was expected has already arrived on the scene. Director Wu greeted Dao Shi with joy like an old friend. Dao Shi's name seemed very familiar to the guys, and they visibly tensed up. Since their last meeting, it had only been a few days, and Dao Shi was like a different person. Director Wu's observation could not be overlooked, for Dao Shi had indeed managed to make a breakthrough. In our time, spiritual qi is especially rarefied and confused. Making a breakthrough is extremely difficult. No one has been able to do it for the past decades. How on earth did he manage it? Seeing an immortal was extremely unusual, and it was fascinating. One could feel a very bright aura from someone like Dao Shi. I wanted to kneel down and serve him. This technique is very effective. Sanchin finally realized the situation he was in. The matter smelled like kerosene. If he didn't run away, he might get chops. We have to run away. And now is just the perfect moment to do so. While everyone is distracted by the guests, Sanchin can escape. It just takes one leap. Before anyone could even react, the dog was already in the hallway. Fortunately, there was no one standing at the door, so he ran out with ease. Sankin was already rejoicing in his small victory and had no intention of stopping, only accelerating his running even more. Still, Principal Wu noticed the dog running away and ordered him to stop it. The guards immediately rushed after him. But what was Kyle to do? If Sanchin runs away, they will take out their anger on him and destroy his entire family. Dao Shi listened to his sensations and didn't even move. And then with his 2 fingers, he directed the flow of energy to the side, thus stopping the escaped dog. Sanchin felt as if he had stepped through a glass door and became numb. He couldn't move at all and didn't understand how to get out of it. And when Dao Shi ordered us to come here, the same flow of energy brought the dog to the master. The same flow of energy brought the dog to the master. He didn't have to use physical force or catch up with the dog to get it back in place. The feeling that Sanchin was experiencing was not pleasant, and accordingly, he began to complain about the master, saying that he would report him to the Animal Protection Society. But he cared little, and the next instant he ordered the dog to be silent. Sanchin did so, and did not utter another word. It didn't matter whether it was by choice or compulsion. Kyle immediately fell to his knees in front of Master Dao Shi and literally begged to become his apprentice. The old man, who had seen everything in the world, was very surprised by this request. Kyle was kneeling in front of Dao Shi with his head bowed. The master was still thinking about what to do with him. The boy was in tears, only for the master to teach him how to cultivate. Kyle was willing to go through anything, because it had been his ambition since childhood. Master Dao Shi saw that he had a spiritual root. Yes, this root is smaller than Fugui's, but the mere presence of it makes one special. Principal Wu took the boy's shirt stiffly, rebuking his behavior. After all, Kyle was causing him trouble. But Dao Shi calmed them down. After all, he could teach Kyle how to cultivate. There is only one condition. When choosing an apprentice, the master relies not only on talent, but also on personal qualities. If Kyle really wants to learn the Dao, he must watch himself for 3 years. If he can endure this, the Tao Shi will take him on as a disciple. Kyle blurted out his gratitude to the master for such an opportunity. The boy could live his normal life, but the master would be watching him, studying him. Just what would Dao Shi do with a dog? The master only needed to look at him to make a decision. With his hand, he began to make various passes. The dog woke up, but he didn't have the confidence he had before. He was very afraid, for he did not know what to expect from the master. But Dao Shi had no intention of hurting him, only exploring what he needed to. There was a divine pill in San Qin's stomach that hadn't even fully dissolved yet, but the dog had become much stronger physically. The realization that the divine pill had been given to a dog made the master very disappointed. After all, if such a pill had been given to him, he would have made another breakthrough. Dao Shi literally cried at this, and the headmaster and disciple didn't even understand what was wrong. In an instant, his frustration turned to anger. He felt as if he were going to burn the dog with his eyes. But if he beats him to death, the whole effect of the pill will simply disappear. Even if he tries to get that pill, it will already be tampered with by nature. If he eats it, he'll just become mentally retarded. Dao Shi was still very angry, and he didn't hide it. He needed to find out where the guy got the pill from and all in great detail. People and reporters were still crowded outside Kyle's house, waiting for the perpetrators of the recent event. Dahlia was already sitting in the car, and her coworker reported the information that the dog was just a hoax. The owner of the house was also absent, probably hiding after the exposure. There was no point in staying at his house after all. If this was news from the official news channel, it must be true. Next to Zhang Jin stood the man who had kindly helped organize this trip for the girls. Qin Shao considered such help as an honor. After all, it was not often that one would meet a velvet fairy in life. Dahlia's eyes seemed to glaze over. She remembered something, and she pulled out a small notebook from her purse. She scribbled a few words on a blank piece of paper. I carefully tore out that sheet and asked Qin Shao to pass this sheet to Kyle. Shao was his neighbor, so it shouldn't be a difficulty, and Dahlia was in a big hurry to get to the broadcast. Qin Shao was only too happy to help such a lady. She wanted to meet Kyle, and it wasn't hard to pass a note about it. Shao often drank with him. The car immediately tore off. The girls said goodbye to the man, promising to treat him to something next time. After a while, Kyle finished his story about how he came across the pill and why he gave it to the dog. The men looked at the boy judgmentally. His story sounded dubious because who would sell pills on the internet that give spirituality? Dao Shi noticed something for himself. The aura of this pill seemed very familiar to the master. Its spiritual qi was the same as that of Mount Yu Qing. Why is Mr. Liu Mo selling such pills on the internet? Is he going to enter the mortal world? Is that how he sows karma? This kind of thinking brought the situation into the depths of the situation. After all, Liu Mo is probably going to do this because of what is about to happen. But won't there be a lull? Stopping his speculation at this point, Dao Shi turned to Director Wu with a stern tone. As it turned out, Dao Shi and Fu Gong had some urgent matters to attend to, so they would be away for a few days. Master warned that if anything happened, the director should control the problems himself. Wu didn't dare to detain the master, but warned that he would keep an eye on the pill seller, but wouldn't do anything. Dao Shi strictly ordered the headmaster not to go to Yukin Mountain under any circumstances, or else no one would be able to save them. Wu accepted all of the director's instructions and promised that he would do as he asked. Dao Shi wanted to contact the seller through Kyle's phone, but as we remember, Liu Mo blocked him. Such behavior was typical of professionals at his level, to be out of this world. Lastly, Dao Shi gave out instructions to Kyle as well. He should cooperate with Director Wu and not cause trouble. But what happens to the dog? Sometimes he does make a fuss and talk a lot. Tao Shi has silence and closure talismans specifically for this purpose. They can be used to stop this dog in case it harms someone. These are only temporary measures to control the situation. If the master finds out that they were used for personal reasons, he will deal with it when he returns. Dao Shi will be back in about a week. Now San Qin's fate depends on these two. The dog was still sealed into the wall and couldn't even imagine what they would want to do to him. Teacher Liu Mo's residence was filled with a dark haze. You could also notice that the entire structure around the building was shaking. Noticing such movements in his teacher's house, Liu Mo thought about postponing his meeting with the Velvet Fairy. After all, what was going on in the house was the most important thing, and he could always go back to the cafe. San Qin was already lying dead with his tongue out and a ticket on his forehead. Principal Wu and Kyle had a lot of fun. Sanchin gave up his spirit. But the work was not waiting, and it became known where the package came from. According to intelligence reports, the package was delivered to Mr. Kyle's house from a barn near Yuqing Mountain. But what to do now? Master Dao had clearly told them not to go that way. Director Wu himself didn't know what to do in this situation and looked rather confused. To make a decision, Wu had to make a call. So he left the dog to Kyle. Director Wu called his boss. He treated him rather famously. The chief was experienced, though Wu rarely called him. It was clear something was up. So the director did not procrastinate and immediately began to explain the reason for his call. The chief told him the same thing as Dao Shi, not to mess with Yuqing Mountain. This mountain is special. Wu should listen to Yang and not make a mess there. Sighing heavily, Wu had nothing left but to agree. After all, even his previous boss tells him to obey Dao Shi. Earlier, Wu had tried to find out about the teacher and his disciple, but was left with nothing. The two of them appeared out of thin air. The boss seemed to have read Wu's mind, and lastly said that sometimes it was better for ordinary people not to know some things. Feeling as if he was caught by this thought, Wu hurriedly ended the conversation. Director Wu had finally made his decision, and as a verdict was ready to narrate it to Kyle. The same question still lingered in his mind. What are we going to do? It's okay. Since Yuqing Mountain has something that people are better off staying away from, they won't go there. This revelation really scared Kyle, because Principal Wu is the kind of person who holds a position that his family wouldn't dare mess with. And as it turns out, there are things happening on the mountain that even he is afraid of. Kyle's cell phone rang in his pocket with a "Grandpa, your grandson is looking for you" ringtone. The melody echoed throughout the room, but it had to be answered. It was his old comrade Qin who called. Even without greetings, he immediately told his friend the main news that had happened today, and he told him, of course, about the note left by the Velvet Fairy. Kyle was on speakerphone. He had nothing to hide from Director Wu. He wondered what the streamer had written. The letter said that Dahlia also ate a pill similar to Kyle's. Such news took both men by surprise and shock. The men looked at each other anxiously, as if trying to figure out what they had just heard. Kyle was so preoccupied that he didn't even answer his friend. Citing the poor connection on his phone, Kyle knocked the call out. It was pretty rude to my friend, but hopefully he'll understand. Director Wu didn't know anything about this streamer, so what's so special about her? If you put it that way, she's just a host on a TikTok channel, and the special thing is probably that she's gorgeous. And that's it. She's just really great, but that's enough for her. There was very little information like this, so what if it's great? How do you figure out what the pill gives what? Kyle did remember one oddity about her, though. It was the way she looked lately. She was a little pale and looked a little better than the others. But suddenly, her aura and appearance changed dramatically. It was like she was healthier and more alive. Here's a picture of her, for example. Director Wu took a closer look. And the next moment, it was as if he were enchanted by her beauty, but turning on a cold mind immediately cooled his ardor. But recognized that in this girl, or rather, in her appearance, is really something unusual. Then it makes sense for them to find Dahlia. Since they couldn't go to Yuqing Mountain, they would be able to learn something from the girl. The dark haze was already gone, but the teacher's house was about to fall to pieces. Before doing anything, Liu Mo decided to find out what was even going on in this house. It was as if Liu Mo had decided to confess to his teacher. He really should have left after Ascension when he received his teacher's warning. There are so many professionals in this world. Liu Mo's strength is limited. The teacher's kindness and care for Liu Mo made him let his guard down in his past life. His teacher had always warned him that he was too pure and trusting. But is that a bad thing? Liu Mo's confession was distracted by the squeak of a mouse that ran into the crevice of the house. For some reason, this really caught Liu Mo's attention, as if he suspected something. He often wondered why he couldn't feel other people's breath. Maybe the answer was that it was because of the mice. This place, the room that Master never allowed Liu Mo to enter. He said it was protecting an important secret of their sect. If it's something important to the sect, it must be protected. My hand instinctively reached for the door. Since the door was locked, Liu Mo kicked it with his abilities. It shattered into pieces. Now Liu Mo will find out what's in that secret room. The room he had been forbidden to enter all his life was now open before him. Would he enter it now? Master used to scare Liu Mo that he might die from qi and deprivation of vitality upon entering this room. Master had always warned him about the dangers of this place, but the mouse seemed to be fine. Now that Liu Mo is strong and his body is pseudo-immortal, his qi and vitality are in abundance. He should be able to last long enough to avoid even the most powerful curse. Stepping into a room you've been banned from for a long time was difficult, but you have to get over yourself. Teacher was still not telling Liu Mo a fairy tale, because right now he could feel his entire body shaking from this evil power. As soon as he crossed the threshold, that power suddenly disappeared. So what was the teacher hiding in this room? Liu Mo should investigate everything here as thoroughly as possible, for he will not rest until he knows the truth.
The room looked rather ordinary. Some dusty shelves of mundane things, a computer desk, and a deep basket of rags.
Things got very dusty over time, and probably the same computer was out of commission. Liu Mo hadn't found anything special in this room so far, but maybe there's something in the basket. He decided to check it out and pulled the red fabric up. There were many magazines with women in such a deep basket, and one asks, is this really the secret that will absorb chi and life force? The fact that his teacher had cheated him throughout his life was very disappointing to Liu Mo. But couldn't the master have his own private corner? Liu Mo is a little paranoid. The teacher really resorted to lying to hide it from the young student. But something was wrong. A shiver once again ran through Liu Mo's entire body. The longer he was here, the stronger the sensation became. As soon as he turned around, the basket of magazines and the computer desk immediately tipped over. This frightened Liu Mo, for he couldn't understand what kind of power and secrets were hidden here. As the crate rose from the floor, Liu Mo noticed a retractable wooden slab. He set the box another place and carefully lifted the lid. No, there was no basement under this slab. But there was something more interesting. Either a book or just a box, but it was completely covered with talismans. You don't even need to use your spiritual senses to sense the evil powers that this box is draining. Looks like that's what the master has locked in here. The talismans on the box started to collapse. Liu Mo didn't know what was inside, but he was sure that if it came out, it would be bad. Perhaps the teacher wanted someone to sharpen it again since he kept it in his own home. A letter in a craft envelope could be seen under the box. Liu Mo immediately took out a white sheet from the envelope. On the white sheet was the teacher's neat handwriting, which Liu Mo recognizes from all other handwritings. If Liu Mo is reading this letter, it means that his teacher is no longer in this world. As if predicting that Liu Mo would still enter this place, he knew that he would not listen to him. But I also couldn't believe that a disciple would be able to cultivate to the innate stage. It turns out that the teacher had foreseen this in his letter as well. However, it didn't matter, since Liu is reading this. The teacher will tell him some of the secrets of the sect. But first, Liu Mo must get rid of the magazines in the basket. The teacher was worried about his reputation, although as far as Liu Mo could remember, he had none. This item had been passed down in his family by inheritance for 72 years. Everyone knew what was inside that box, but you could never open the box. This box must be over 1,000 years old. You can't open the box, because the consequences would be unimaginable, said the teacher. If Liu has the opportunity, he should give this box to the heir of the Dao sect. But where will Liu Mo find him? Well, Liu Mo made the decision to seal this box with his power for now, and therefore think about where to find an heir. Adding a few more seals to the malevolent box, Liu did his thing. But the dark aura was still present, though it was considerably less. Just why Liu Mo could definitely sense such an aura from his companion. And why did it suddenly disappear? It's definitely something we need to look into. The Kunlun Mountains were famous for their grandeur, and the number of them in one area, as well as their height. Every single cultivator and master wouldn't mind being here. And Dao Shi and his disciple are no exception either, but the student had slackened. They had been climbing these stairs for an hour now, and of course the student with the extra load was already tired. But luckily the boys arrived on the scene. But had the teacher gone mad? At the place they arrived there was nothing but frogs and some steps. And there is a sign up ahead warning that you can't go any further, as there are wild animals there. But Dao Shi didn't seem to care much about this. He used his talisman without answering anything to his disciple. A light aura appeared near him. He was covering for something to appear. And the steps began to crumble. The wind was blowing harder and harder. In the middle of the mountains, a new building opened up that the human eye had never seen before. Now the teacher will be a guide to his student in the new world. This monastery-like place was carefully hidden from human eyes, from those who weren't supposed to know about it. It was a quiet harbor for cultivating masters. It was a place where people of all ages lived and worked for the benefit of the monastery itself. This was the first time Fugui had seen such a place, and now he didn't hide his surprise towards the new place. The young man carefully cleared the fallen leaves from the threshold of the house, and was delighted to meet the great guardian of the house. Fugui's surprise was unprecedented. He had just learned that his immortal teacher was also the guardian of this mysterious place. Each of the occupants of the house respectfully bowed to Dao Shi, greeting the owner of this place. These people truly honored Dao Shi for his character, knowledge, help, and guidance. Fuquei felt like he was in a dream. He had just had to recognize the other side of his teacher as well. If before Guy had seen him as some perverted old man who watched broadcasts, how to think of him now? Finished with the greetings, Dao Shi got down to business, wondering where the leader Dao was. As it turned out, the leader was cultivating on top of the cloud sea. With a bored look, Dao Shi introduced his disciple Fuquei as their second teacher. Without any questions or clarification, the students greeted their second teacher. The disciples whispered amongst themselves, because to attract the attention of a great guardian, one must have outstanding talent. And cultivating with a guardian for a year counted for 10. This is the kind of climb Fuquei didn't expect. Did he really impress the guys that much? But his pondering was interrupted by Dao Shi. Right now they were going to head towards the mountains. Now their goal was to meet the Dao leader. Dao Shi instructed his disciple on how to behave when they met. The main thing is not to say anything unnecessary and to behave respectfully. Guo had just recently learned of the existence of the sect, and now he had the honor of meeting the leader himself. I wonder how human this leader is. Fuguo imagined him like this. A gray-bearded old man in a cultivation robe, riding a cloud to see through objects like an immortal. The mere thought of meeting him was already exhilarating. After not a long distance, Dao Shi and Fuguei still arrived at the place. The door was very large. Accordingly, the door handle was also as big as half a man's hand. Someone was already greeting them on the doorstep. Dao was smiling, and Fuguei hadn't stopped marveling at what he had seen here since he had gotten to this mountain. A little girl, about 7 years old, greeted them on the doorstep. Her blue eyes sparkled at the sight of her brother. Tears began to slowly flow from the old man's eyes, but for some reason he called the girl not sis, but brother in response. Fuguo tried to understand at least something. Is this girl really the leader of the Dao? Why did Dao Shi call her brother? What the hell is even going on here? It was obvious from the girl's demeanor that she was indeed the leader of the Dao clan. What's going to happen to this sect now? The old man's a pervert, the girl's an anime-like leader. Suddenly, Dao Shi inquired about the leader's opinion of his disciple. Her eyes lit up with a bright light, as if she was conducting a scan of Fuguo. Fuguo really did feel as if this girl had seen right through him. It felt as if nothing could escape her gaze. She might even be able to kill him with her gaze if she wanted to. Fuguo's abilities impressed the leader. He had a complete cultivation foundation, namely sufficient talent and a patient heart. Dao Shi was proud of his student, even though he called him stupid. But it was time to get acquainted. The girl turned out to be the older brother of Dao Shi, whose name is Nan Gong. In terms of seniority, Guo should call her second teacher. Since it was a girl, wouldn't it be logical to call her auntie? But as if hearing these thoughts, Dao Shi coughed warningly. If they were to fall into convention, she should be called sister. But for some reason, she likes to be called brother. Dao Shi can't win her over, so it's left to do as she says. Fuguo greeted his second teacher, and the latter directly became proud of it. The guys were about to leave, but Nan Gong asked her disciple to wait to have a one-on-one talk with Dao Shi. To hide the conversation from prying ears, Nan only needed to wave her hand. And a huge magical wall rose up in front of the student, behind which nothing could be seen. To form such a large array with one hand, what kind of strength do you have to have? Nan immediately inquired what kind of Saint Dao Shi had met when he visited the mortal world. Dao Shi seemed to shout out, betraying his words with admiration. Maul had met a professional at the top of this world. The tale was long, so they sat down by the smoker. All this time, Nan didn't utter a single word. She listened to her brother attentively, absorbing the new information. And because when the underlying evil reappeared, those who secretly guarded this world would also appear. The events happened just as Nan had predicted. A month ago, Nan had used a mirror peeking into the heavens to see the future, but it had cost her 10 years of her life. Well, one day, the wolf that devours the sky will come, and trouble will happen. Of course, the future is affected by many factors, but Nan is the only one who can try to change it. But how such a thing was possible, Dao Shi couldn't imagine. Since ancient times, there's been a great evil whose purpose is to devour the world and bring chaos to it. It consumes life and gains immortality, so it still exists. His actions angered the immortals of the sect, and they banded together to seal the evil and weaken its power. Of course, a great evil would not allow itself to be sealed, for it needs to devour life forces to continue to exist. And every 10 rebirth cycles, it sends a part of itself to bring destruction to the world. That was 180 years ago, and Dao Shi saw that with his current strength, it would be difficult to stop it. But according to Nan's prediction, while the sects were weakened by the lack of spiritual qi, the great evil was also weakened. Over thousands of years of imprisonment, its strength has greatly diminished. If all the professionals unite, they will be impossible to beat, and that is indeed the case. Therefore, Nan wants to hold a gathering of all the great immortal sects so that we can fight the great evil together. Only problem was that many professionals had died in battle 3 cycles ago, and there were too few people able to help. But there was no other choice but to make every effort. We should try to engage the professional that Dao Shi had mentioned earlier. Let's leave the forests and cultivation houses filled with peace, unity with nature, and look into the evening metropolis. People's lives are in full swing. People meet in noisy nightclubs and flirt with each other, like this couple, for example. They just met and didn't have a bad first part of the evening, but the sequel follows at someone's house if they make it. The young man was a little late for his date due to traffic, but that's okay. For some reason, the gentleman turned his attention to a young couple walking away from the club. To reach home, they were not destined. So the young people stopped in the nearest dark alley, where the guy lavished the girl with compliments. The girl had charmed the guy and wished to eat him. Such a suggestion from the outside sounded twofold, but it made one sense to him. Of course he didn't mind being eaten by such a lovely lady. Let him do whatever he wanted. Her voice was like a siren's. It was impossible to succumb to such charms. But it is extremely dangerous. The girl was not originally herself, and was just looking for a victim to eat someone. And the guy was easy prey. The girl's eyes turned into 2 fiery furnaces. Her teeth became as sharp as a shark's, and her head flew out from her shoulders, thus making her neck longer. A normal person would not be able to resist such power. So the guy just had no chance, and he became his girlfriend's dinner. Blood from his body splattered everywhere, staining the pavement and the scenes of houses. The girl had had a great meal and was now wiping her lips clean of blood, savoring the taste. In the middle of that evening, the clouds suddenly converged in one place. Thunder rumbled, and then lightning struck the pavement. Such a sudden change in the weather did not escape the girl's notice. Suddenly, a huge, dark vortex appeared with the same lightning. He was heading away from the lightning, as if he were running away from mortal danger. The dark matter had no time to escape before it was trapped in the Golden Dome. The young gentleman had already gone on a date for some time. By the count, it was the 142nd, and each time evil had thwarted his appointments. But you can't help it. It's a job to be a watchman and catch creatures like these. As soon as he turned around, the creature aimed its tail at the guard's back. Being already experienced with this sort of thing, the guy immediately noticed something amiss. But the sharp tail like an arrow passed by the man's body without even hitting him. Such meanness angered the Lord even more, and a semblance of a saber appeared in his hands. Feeling hatred for such creatures and irritation at being prevented from establishing a personal life and getting married added strength to the blow. The impact was so powerful that the gentleman flew up into the air. The creature did nothing but gawk at what was going on. The magical sword chopped apart the dark matter, emitting sparks from itself. The gentleman commented on this situation as a praying mantis trying to stop the carriage. Indeed, what could such a small speck do against such a powerful energy charge? Whatever barriers the creature built around itself, the light energy destroyed everything. All it took was one precise and powerful blow as the dark creature shattered into pieces. The mere bits weren't limited to pieces. The creature left behind the girl's body, as well as a host of other bodies that have managed to eat their way through the entirety of their existence. The girl's hand suddenly moved, but she couldn't stay alive. The creature that had invaded her was still alive and was about to run away. Of course, the master wasn't going to just let him go and continue to use his abilities. He sealed the creature in his small bottle. After all, he left the date anyway. How could he miss such a creature now? This alleyway was very dirty after the massacre, so Sun Ji decided to order a cleaning service. But he got a call from Clean Old Yang. Sun Zifang was very dissatisfied, because his evening was completely ruined. And then there was an old man interrupting his work. Daosher and Sun had recently chatted, and the old man decided to inquire about how the date went. The ordinary question infuriated Jia Fan even more. He was almost 100 years old. Even for a watchman, he was very old. All of his disciples got married, so why can't he too? Dao Shi asked. The old man didn't scoff for long, and explained that he wanted to invite Sanjie Fan to the Immortal Sect meeting next month. Jia Fan had a lot of work to do lately. The demons and ghosts had only become more numerous. But there was a reason for the meeting, because the seals were weakening, and the amount of work was a consequence of that. I didn't believe it after all. The seals had been renewed 3 cycles ago, so why would they weaken again so quickly? Jia Fan understood the gravity of the situation, so he did not refuse the old man's request. For this, Daosher was willing to introduce his friend to the Purple Dawn Fairy. But this made Jai Fan even more angry because she was 6 feet tall and weighed 180 kilograms. She's also an ogre. If there was another prank from the old man, Ji Fan would definitely kick his ass. Having discussed all the important details, the call between the old friends was concluded. Dao Shi told his disciple about the people he had talked to. It was a shame to realize that the lineage of watchmen was waning. Sun Ji is the leader of the watchmen. They are in the business of refining bodies and using them in battle. Due to the fact that cultivators are scarce, it is difficult to find a body to purify. What's more, it's a bloodline. Sun Sifan is about 100 years old and he doesn't even have a girlfriend. But Dao Shi doesn't have one either. Only thing is, the teacher is a Taoist. He has devoted his entire life to the pursuit of the Tao. You can't connect these things. The Heaven's Gate is closed, so the path of cultivation is cut off. Heaven's Gate is the same gate that is mentioned in the books. By crossing it, a person can become immortal and ascend to the world of immortals. There's a list of people who have tried to get in there, but there's not a single name of someone who succeeded. All that was known was that the Heaven's Gate was created to absorb spiritual S from the mortal world. For what purpose to help mortals ascend and absorb the Qi from this world was unknown. But while the Qi was being absorbed, the number of cultivators was dropping. To prevent the spiritual Qi from completely disappearing, all the professionals sacrificed their lives to seal the gate. Peace was restored. But cultivating immortality had become more difficult. Just what's beyond the gate itself? It's too early for the apprentice to know. Right now, they need to find a way to make it through this cycle. Hopefully, they'll find a solution when they gather the immortal sects. In one of the bustling cafes, the Velvet Fairy and Jin made a reservation. Kyle was already waiting for the important guests and called them to his room. Only Dahlia expected to see Kyle with a dog. But since he's a lot of trouble, he's been locked up. Kyle was fascinated by the girl because she was even more beautiful in person. She had a mysterious aura about her. But Dahlia was only interested in the details of the past event and how he ended up with the pill. Kyle began his story, and it all started with TikTok. When the girls found out that Kyle had bought this pill for 100 yuan, they were simply dumbfounded. But Kyle was just bored, and it had these consequences. Now Dahlia was interested in the sender's address. But all Kyle could say was that he was from Moe's. The rest of the information he was forbidden to tell. The girl spent about 100,000 on pills, but never found a real one. It was disappointing, of course. Jin immediately suggested to have a conference of all streamers about cultivation. Perhaps someone else knows the whereabouts of this vendor, or they might be able to attract him themselves. This is where I was just fine, and Kyle happily backed her up. He even offered his help in preparation. As a variant, he suggested calling the conference a meeting of immortal sects. Jin has taken over the transportation planning, and Dahlia will be responsible for advertising and inviting other streamers. Everyone got to work together. Liu Mo continued to cultivate diligently at home. Crisis and opportunity go hand in hand. Trouble and grace merge together. Is there a difference? When the ordinary is taken to the extreme, it becomes mysterious. When stupidity is taken to the extreme, it becomes evil, bright, but not dazzling. Strong, but not overbearing. A true Taoist is one who is able to find balance. In a small house in the middle of the mountains, Liu Mo had a huge breakthrough. The energy surged out of his body like this and trapped everything around him. Liu Mo had reached the 4th innate stage. He now had even more strength and would be able to defend himself better. Suddenly, he got a call on his phone from the Velvet Fairy. It was unusual for the older one to call him, but he immediately picked up the phone. Dahlia invited Liu Mo to the Immortal Sect meeting at the Mo International Grand Hotel in 7 days. With bated breath and hope in her eyes, she asked if he could look in there. A gathering of immortal sects is quite an important event. Liu Mo had no idea why people of his level were invited personally. Liu Mo was silent and didn't say anything. Dahlia was already starting to think that he was offended because she missed the meeting, and started apologizing to the guy. She was really guilty about not showing up, but she explained that an important matter had come up and she had to miss the meeting. Dahlia was in a hurry to get to it that evening, but when she ran to the meeting place, the waiter informed her that Liu Mo had left. The girl was indeed very sorry, but she really hoped that Liu Mo would come. Liu Ma took it as a worry, because it was the first time in his 2 lives that he was being taken care of by a woman other than his mom. Such an invitation was something of an honor, and he was only too glad to come. And Dahlia was glad he agreed and looked forward to seeing him. It was kind of a relief to her that the guy wasn't mad, and had agreed to come after all. And this was the first time Jin noticed her friend being so worried about a guy. Did she really like the slow cultivator as a person? She didn't know it herself. But some instinct told her he was special. Liu Ma was over the moon. He had just been invited by the Velvet Fairy herself. This was a great chance for him to expand his horizons. It's also a great chance to find out from the pros if they know what to do with the damn box. Liu Mo had just elevated himself. He should try to refine the pills and ask the alchemy masters for advice. He didn't want to embarrass the senior Velvet Fairy, but the box he kept with him was beginning to emit more and more dark energy. The talismans were weakening. Fu Guo and Dao Shi returned to the office after a few days. The master immediately asked if they had learned anything new in the meantime. Kyle was overjoyed at the teacher's arrival, his eyes sparkling at the sight of him. He immediately said that he was holding a meeting of immortal sects and invited Dao Shi to attend. Master was of course surprised and clarified. Did Director Wu approve of this? A bunch of mortals dared to use such a name. Aren't they afraid of being struck by lightning? The director really knew about it, because at this gathering of people, they were going to find out about the pill seller. Dao Shi immediately declined the invitation and ordered them to do as they saw fit. And after all, Kyle invited many girl streamers because Fu Gui once narrated that Dao Shi was interested in them. It seems that Disciple will not be well today. Since he's using the Immortal Sect's name, it's now Master Shi's event. Kyle was very happy to have a guest like this, because Dao Shi would be able to show what he could do. But the master was most concerned about the girl streamers, and of course he asked about them. Kyle said that everyone who is involved in the topic of cultivation has been invited. The event is being organized by the Velvet Fairy. Dao Shi should know her. She has become very popular. The mere mention of the Velvet Fairy already provided a significant reason to attend such an event. The memory of something immediately brought the master out of his perverted reverie. He jumped out of the room in a heartbeat and asked the students to wait in the same room without even saying where he was running to. Meanwhile, in the Yuqing Mountains, the little house, completely enveloped by the smell of cooking in the cauldron, it was Liu Mo conjuring up another pill. He was doing just fine. Having the highest level of cultivation, he was able to make 5 golden pills at once. The bone-washing pill worked out much better this time. Liu Mo could now bring them to the meeting and not embarrass the elder. There was someone knocking on the door someone wanted to see with Senior Liu Mo. Master Dao Shi reported that he had something important to discuss with Liu Mo. The young man had already assumed that he was back regarding cultivation. Most of his cultivation was achieved by self-studying the books his master gave him. Liu made the decision to avoid the master while he waited for the day of the meeting. After all, if he teaches the master the same things he knows, deviations could possibly come. Liu Mo asked him to come back in 3 days. Dao Shi appreciated his politeness. After all, he had heard that there were professionals who killed those who interfered with their cultivation. In order not to test fate, the master ran away. The Immortal Sect meeting isn't until next month. Therefore, we can wait and participate in Kyle's meeting.
Liu Mo didn't want to stay here anymore. If Dao Shi found him, there was no guarantee that no one else would. After the meeting, he should move out.
The spiritual energy was being saturated more and more as Liu Mo produced pills. With what he had now, he could break through to the next stage. Therefore, Liu Mo continued to cultivate diligently in his favorite lotus posture. His energy was spreading everywhere, and even snagged that very box. It felt like she was about to catch fire from his energy. Liu Mo immediately sensed that something was wrong. It was that sense of danger in that forbidden room. He was beginning to guess what was wrong, but were his guesses true? As soon as he turned his head, he saw the box on the table. It had been there for 2 days, even though he hadn't brought it here. The box glowed with a very bright light. The talismans began to come off of it. Everything standing around her was crumbling and breaking. The box began to open and dark matter spewed out. The room was a terrible mess, with all things lifted and no matter how heavy they were. Liu Mo's cauldron also began to move, thus scratching the floor. Liu immediately moved toward him to suspend him and put him in his place. As soon as Liu Mo got closer to the box, all the energy became less. But at the same time, it had no effect on the guy himself. Having enough strength, Liu Mo gestured with his hands to stop all the dark energy coming out of the box, thus closing it. The box did indeed seal again. Her bad aura was entering back into the box. But what was wrong with Liu Mo? He felt as if he was about to faint. His head began to spin, and some strange memories came into his head. My heart began to pound frantically. He saw pictures from his past where he was very young, and some man, probably his father. He saw himself as a very young man, where in those mountains he was tirelessly cultivating, practicing, and seeing the world. 7 emotions and 6 desires were raging, and it made my head hurt a lot. This box is much more dangerous than Liu Mo could have imagined. He should double or even triple the number of seals and talismans. That very second he got down to business and put as many seals on the box as he could. There was now a minimal aura emanating from the box that wasn't very dangerous. What could have been in that box that created such a terrifying force, especially this red light? Liu Mo's mind was a complete mess, only happy that his mind was strong enough. If he was a little weaker, he might have gone crazy. This box is definitely very dangerous. Liu Mo decided to give it to the leadership of the Dao sect. In the middle of the city, the Watchman's headquarters was hiding behind the new buildings. There's a notification on my phone that there's going to be a gathering of immortals. This is a chance to witness the appearance of a real immortal. Once again, there is a talking dog. Such a sensation should not be missed. A gathering of immortal sects organized by mortals was a very interesting event for the leader of the Watchmen. Especially the silhouette looked familiar. But the fact that it was being organized by mortals could indicate that it was just entertainment. But on the other hand, ridding the city of demons was still the Watchman's job. So why not go there and snatch the boss's wife? Such a proposal was very embarrassing to the boss, because none of his colleagues should be concerned about his personal life. Jai Fong summoned his colleagues because he is going to Kunlun Mountains for a few days. The demonic activity has increased again. There is a bad feeling about that event. Therefore, the Watchmen should still go there. But on the other hand, it's just an event for mortals. So why would those who lord it over the supernatural go there? At the very least, because it's an order. It's important to remember that apart from Watchmen, there are many secret organizations in the world. And each one has its own unique way of cultivation. Orthodox Dao cultivators, Senshai-based exorcists, a medicinal sect hiding in the mountains. Watchmen don't interact with them, but the leader knew for sure that they had lurking professionals. The same could be said for demons with special cultivation methods. The Watchman's job is to maintain peace among mortals and protect them from evil forces. 2 days later, the long-awaited Immortal Sect meeting began. People were immediately live-streaming what was going on here. For today's event, the Hongsheng Hotel building has been under renovation for over a month. This hotel is famous for its age-old history. The organizer of today's event and heir to the conglomerate is Li Kyle. The guy was dressed to the hilt and shined at the event. A large amount of attention was on the Velvet Fairy. She chose to wear a traditional outfit rather than impress the huge crowds of fans. Seeing the Velvet Fairy, the journalist immediately lost interest in the organizer, no matter how he tried to get him back. There were 132 disappearances last night, and there are only 11 cases in one town in Mo. These incidents were not normal. Management should increase the number of officers handling cases and add more people to patrols. Director Wu also ordered to send someone to watch for clusters of people. Residents need to be kept safe. A man wearing a tank top caught the crowd's attention. It was the great immortal Du Jie. After him came a man in a yellow suit, popularly considered the god of good luck. It's worth noting that the heir to the conglomerate is generous, for he chose such a famous place to gather internet stars. A night in such a hotel costs a couple thousand, and he invited all the streamers to participate. There were rumors that an Immortal Ascension podium had been made for this event. The organizers did everything to make it seem like it was all a cultivation novel. At the entrance to the hotel, all the guests were met by a charming girl, only it was not her who attracted attention, but something else. In front of the stairs there was a huge dragon as if made of mist. The interior of the living room was made of gold and was impressive in its opulence. If they have prepared such a thing for the event, what will be at the event? The Velvet Fairy noticed that there were a lot of people backstage. She had been to events before, but never to one this big. And it's all thanks to Kyle. He did a great job. Just one video with an advertisement got over 100 million views and was trending for days. And just for a minute, this event is sponsored by a bunch of big companies. Fugo was surprised at how full-scale this event had become, that even companies were participating. And after all, it is only worth waiting for Senkin to appear. His broadcast will become the trend of the entire internet. Just where is the old man? San Qin is referring to the Tao teacher. Dao Shi wanted to be at his best, so got ready to open at 8. The old man was already in full swing, picking up the girls, pretending to read their hands. And the girls were just falling for it. The old man is pleasant, and the girls are interested in spending time with him. There was no shortage of Darshur, and girls were always hanging around him. Dahlia excitedly peeked out from backstage, as if to see if her chief guest, Liu Mo, would appear. Our young man finally found the very hotel. He had no money for new clothes, so he took his teacher's old clothes, hoping that he would not be angry with him. Dahlia was worried about her guest and asked her to let her know when Liu Mo would arrive so that someone would meet him at the entrance. But is he too weak to go through the main entrance? Liu Mo looked at the crowd of people and pondered whether he should go through the main entrance, and yet he turned to another man to guide him. Dahlia had already informed her staff, and they knew about the special guest in advance, so they immediately agreed to escort him to the Velvet Fairy. Not surprising for a gathering of immortal sects. Only the best sects can afford an event of this level. But one thing Liu Mo didn't understand was why there were so many mortals here. So many people, and only a couple of them cultivating, and even then weakly. And yet even the attendant is also a mortal. Liu Mo suggested that society was run by mortals. Perhaps it was an unspoken rule not to reveal one's cultivation. If all the professionals were to reveal themselves, at best, the mortals would suffer. Liu Mo immediately began to restrain his qi. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died if the elder got angry. The suspicious couple whispered, checking to see if Dahlia and Dog were here. The girl could smell their body odor not far away. If these two eat them, they'll be one step closer to their resurrection. On the surface, they were just dark shadows, but what lurked within them? There was a courteous knock on the door. The door of the room was opened by Dali's friend, barely peeking out from behind the door. But when she saw the special guest, she blushed like a little girl. Liu Mo looked adorable in his teacher's outfit, so it was no wonder that the girls seemed to melt at the mere sight of him, not to mention his aura. Hearing the slow cultivator arrive, Dahlia shook everyone up to see the guy. As soon as she ran out of her room, she immediately approached an indecent distance from Liu Mo. Senior Velvet Fairy is as beautiful as a goddess point spiritual qi emanated from her. Not surprising for a cultivator from a major sect, Liu Mo pondered. Like a mesmerized Dahlia stared into the eyes of the slow cultivator. He was even more beautiful than in the video. Nowadays, most streamers use filters. Dahlia never thought people could be prettier than filters. Fuguo and the dog didn't even know what kind of special guest this was, but Liu Mo could feel the fluctuations of qi in the room. Even without entering the room, Liu Mo realized that Taoist disciple of that Taoist was sitting there. This energy was coming from him, and even the qi could be felt from the dog. Liu Mo was glad that he was restraining his qi. There were so many professionals gathered here as he thought, and everyone was just hiding. Otherwise, how could a dog have cultivation? Suddenly, the dog let his cigarette out of his fingers, and at that moment began to bark. Guo assumed that the cigarette had burned his fur, but the dog sensed the powerful aura and didn't react to the taunt in any way. Dahlia was going to take Liu Mo to the special place for him, and asked her friend not to follow her. Grabbing hands, the boys immediately ran away from the people. The friend was a little pissed off by this behavior. Dahlia dumped her friend because a boyfriend showed up. No sooner had Jin entered the room than a dog's nose started sniffing her. San Qin carefully looked the girl in the eyes and continued to sniff her. Naturally, the humans felt nothing, but the dog sensed a fluctuation in qi. It seems that an influential person has arrived, and it wasn't Master Daoshi. The dog remembered his lousy aura very well, but as he approached the door, he felt something again. The aura disappeared, but the girl's resentment only increased. She was really annoyed by this dog's arrogance and kicked him with her foot. Liu Mo turned to his companion, like he noticed something unusual. They were still holding hands. It was an exciting and very awkward moment for them. They both felt something for each other, but they didn't admit it to themselves or to anyone else. Realizing that Dahlia was holding Liu Mo's hand tightly, she immediately pulled it out. Liu Mo thought that there was something wrong with him and may have been rude or offended the Velvet Fairy in some way. For the first time in his life, Liu Mo was holding a girl's hand. He didn't have any experience. What should he do? This was also Liu Mo's first time at an immortal gathering. He couldn't offend the members of the major sects. Besides, Velvet Fairy had invited him. One could not appear rude. The guy decided to start by thanking the Velvet Fairy for inviting him. After all, he could meet some influential people at the meeting. Only for some reason, Dahlia thought the guy was faking it. Liu Mo is very handsome, but it's a shame he's so immersed in his game. I wish everyone could be so devoted. From the look of the Velvet Fairy, Liu Mo saw that once again he said something wrong. A woman's heart is so complicated. Liu Mo just decided to admit that he lacks manners. But anyway, it's about to start soon and Dahlia needs to take the guest to his seat. Taoist Lanbo was once a very popular person when he was selling pills. But when his account was deleted, it was all gone. His account had 3 million followers. But Daos wasn't going to just give up and wanted a fresh start this month. His desire to make videos is even more intense. He had bought a stove a long time ago, but now he needed to buy a new one, especially for filming. Some stranger really wanted to buy it and asked for it for a long time. So Daos sold it for 20,000. When that man started selling the pills, all of Daos' customers left. His account had been deleted right after the sale. For some reason, Daos was certain that the buyer had complained about him because he was jealous, and he wasn't going to forgive that. The girl sitting beside Dao Shi was very surprised when she saw the charming man with Dahlia and brought it to Dao's attention. Dahlia and Liu Mo looked just fine together as a couple, even though they were not. They were proud to be around each other. Dahlia didn't invite any more special guests, and so it drew a lot of attention to her and Liu Mo. She had carved out the most vacant spot for him. As soon as he sat down, everyone in the back would stare at him intently, trying to figure out who the young man was. The Velvet Fairy left, but promised Liu Mo that she would be back soon. Dahlia had made him a very nice place indeed. He didn't regret going with her. Someone's feminine hand touched Liu Mo's shoulder. The girl who had just sat with Dao Shi had already moved over to Liu Mo, recognizing him as a slow cultivator. Liu Mo attracted a lot of attention from the female gender. The women all surrounded the guy, trying to make some kind of contact with him, and see if he would at least take a look at them. The change of mood among the girls made Dao Shi angry, because now it wasn't him who was basking in women's attention, but someone else. I wouldn't even say I was swimming, but drowning. Liu Mo has never been to such events, and especially not with such a crowd of girls. Dao Shi also sensed a strange aura, the aura of a professional. Just what is he doing here? Seeing the slow cultivator basking in the attention of the girls, Dao Shi was filled with envy. And when another Taoist saw Liu Mo as well, he immediately recognized the culprit of his troubles. He finally found that ungrateful bastard. Sitting in the awkwardness of the whole situation, Liu Mo was immediately called out. The girls had no idea what or who dared to yell at their favorite. The situation drew the attention of everyone present, and including Dao Shi. The Taoist yelled at Liu Mo for making fake pills and fooling him. Things were bad because this professional was actually selling the furnace and recognized Liu Mo. From what Liu Mo had seen on the internet, he was at least a level 8 pill master. Most importantly, he claims that Liu Mo is selling fakes. Don't tell me he also thinks Liu Mo's pill level is too low, and by doing so, he's insulting his furnace. All the women immediately came to Liu Mo's defense. They didn't even think of believing such slander. At least because Liu Mo didn't look as disgusting as a Taoist. This Taoist is not even comparable to Liu Mo's finger. Dirty, shabby, stinky. Who is this Taoist to talk such nonsense? Seeing the women advancing on him, the man calmed down a little. But the argument was now on everyone's ears. It seemed that this Taoist's calmness was just the calm before the real storm. He wasn't going to be silent and started shouting at the top of his voice. But suddenly someone asked him to calm down. Only whose voice was it? It turned out to be the voice of a slow cultivator. Moreover, physically Liu Mo didn't even say anything. It was like a telepathic thought transmission. Liu Mo suggested to just talk. This is a gathering of immortals. There are so many important people here. Why don't they discuss it later? The old man acted like a madman, started pointing his finger at the guy, saying that he had given up and wanted to settle things personally. Of course, none of the men had even heard anything. The women became even more angry and began to defend their favorite, calling the old man just a crazy man who wanted attention. The Taoist was a third-level cultivator, and felt confident in his strength that he could easily deal with Liu Mo. But Liu Mo's voice didn't stop talking, for the women were about to go mad with anger. It finally reached the old man that only he could hear the slow cultivator's voice. Does the slow cultivator really know how to transmit sound? Daos had once heard about this technique from his own teacher, but only those who are in the golden shell can do this. Rumors had reached him that there would be real immortals here. They surrounded Liu Mo or him. Had Daos signed his own death warrant? Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Daos fell to his knees and bawled. He said he was only joking and apologized for his transgressions. His behavior was very strange from the outside. Just now the old man was aggressive, and now suddenly he fell to his knees. In fact, Liu Mo didn't even realize his own abilities. He saw himself as a nobody and thought that he was just a joke to the professionals here. So why was this Taoist bowing to him? Liu Mo didn't want Daos to kneel, but the latter immediately ran away, asking for forgiveness. How in the world was this lunatic even allowed in here? The girls thought. Fortunately, Mr. Liu Mo was kind enough to let him go. Otherwise, Dao Shi was afraid that he would turn him into dust out of anger. In his rush to get away from Liu Mo, the Taoist crashed into someone's chest. At Kyle's chest, the guy immediately recognized Daos Bo Hai, which surprised him. But then again, how could Kyle not know him? After all, he was the one who bought a lot of rejuvenation pills from the Taoist. But the old man believed that in his work, pills were just pills and nothing else. Kyle wished he could get a little more information from the old man about the immortal who sells immortality pills. Daos assumed the guy had taken them before, but before he could even take them, his dog ate the pills. Sanchin ate a pill and now he's talking. Kyle couldn't even take them. and this immortal is still ignoring him. The Taoist actually remembered that those pills that the immortal was selling for 100 yuan turned out to be the very real immortality pills. At this point, he felt cheated or just a loser. The festivities had already begun. The host asked the guests to take their seats. The opening ceremony of the immortals meeting would begin in 5 minutes. Liu Mo sat in his seat like this and exhaled in relief that the women had finally left. But someone else had come. Dao Shi kindly said hello to Mr. Liu, noticing that he was in a good mood since he had decided to participate in the event. Liu Mo didn't even have time to reply anything, as someone's huge figure loomed over him. The man blamed Liu Mo for sitting here. He thought he was unworthy of being on par with a pure Yang Taoist. This situation really annoyed Dao Shi. Where did this idiot just come from here? And why did he bring him into the conflict? The man disdainfully continued to stare at Liu Mo, and Dao Shi tried to draw attention to himself. He saw that Dao Shi was in a ridiculous situation and felt it was necessary to help him, thus bringing him authority. Zhou Lei was how this stranger introduced himself. He already knew that a true immortal was a pure Dao Shi. He was sure that the immortal would be happy if Zhou helped him. After all, then he would be able to succeed. Zhu continued to pressure Liu Mo not to spoil Dao Shi's mood. The stranger had even begun to threaten physical force. Meanwhile, Dao Shi stood there and gritted his teeth. He considered the real immortal Liu Mo. What would happen now? Zhou had angered Liu Mo. He would be finished, and Dao Shi wouldn't be able to help in any way. Zhou looked at Dao Shi and thought that the latter was grateful for such protection. Liu Mo suddenly inquired about which sect and who this Zhou's teacher was from. He continued to sit flatly in his seat and did not even move. His confident gaze spoke volumes and confused the assailant. It seemed as if Liu Mo's question didn't reach the stranger well, and he looked at the guy clarifyingly. But in the next moment, he was angry. Why should he tell who his teacher was? And why didn't Liu Mo call his teacher so that Jun could kick both of their asses? This whole fight was demonstrative, and Zhou Lei kept repeating his name and glancing at the master, relentlessly threatening Liu Mo with retaliation. To be polite, Liu Mo introduced himself as an immortal from Yuqing Mountain. Yes, Liu Mo is from a small sect, but he didn't provoke a conflict. Maybe his cultivation isn't that strong, but how dare this rascal fight with him? Dao Shi saw that the conflict was escalating. This was not a good thing. Liu Mo defended himself at face value and demanded excuses from the stranger. Without waiting for any words, Liu Mo rumbled up, collapsing all the neighboring chairs, thus scaring Zhou. The stranger offered to rebuke Liu Mo for not respecting Master Dao. And now they're being cruel and trying to disrupt the meeting. Liu Mo came down the mountain about a month ago. Everyone he met was kind. He had already forgotten that people like this rogue still existed. Liu Mo didn't attack him or use any force, but the provocateur was already lying at his feet, trembling with fear. From the window, one could see the cultivator slowly getting into a fight. Noticing this, the Velvet Fairy became more than a little agitated. However, the old sage was also very afraid. He saw that this was the end. The elder became angry. If he went on a rampage, not only the mortals, but also the cultivator community might suffer. After a while, Dao Shi finally decided to intervene in the conflict and offered to settle things peacefully. Zhou didn't have any scratches or beatings on him, but he was already yelling for help from the master, asking to be saved. The situation Liu Mo had gotten himself into was as strange as possible. He didn't even know what to do, and looked at the stranger like he was crazy. In one move, Dao Shi was on the edge of the building for all to see. Dao Shi began to make hand passes, causing a flow of energy. Absolutely every person in the audience paid attention to him. The old man created a paper bird that was rising to the top. It wasn't every day that an ordinary person got to witness something like this, so they watched the flying paper bird mesmerized. The incident was also noticed by the organizers of the holiday, marveling at the awesomeness. The paper bird flew straight towards Liu Mo. Liu Mo set up his graceful finger, and the bird landed on it. But then with a sudden movement, he flipped the paper bird back. And in the next instant, the piece of paper turned into a real big bird. Many more such paper birds flew out from Dao Shi's sleeve. Such a trick, such a performance distracted people from the current conflict. Everyone watched with genuine amazement the real and paper birds as they flew around the hall. The paper bird turned into a real crane. It was adorable and very realistic. People exclaimed their best wishes for the immortal. From such beauty in the hall, the number of spectators kept growing and growing. Jin herself was truly admiring this beauty. Dahlia couldn't believe her eyes that Liu Mo had really done all this. As it turned out, he really had been an immortal all this time. The crane flew up to Dao Shi and circled near him. The man himself was delighted and watched it like a child. He had no idea that Liu Mo would respond to his message like this. And soon the performance from the birds was interrupted, exploding with a bright light in the air. These birds gave the best seconds of the whole time people were here. The birds were here for about 40 seconds, but they left the most pleasant and warm residue in the hearts of people. The Daoshi paper stork is nothing more than a fun trick. In a couple of years, even an average person can learn this. But to turn paper up close is a whole other level. Even Daoshi's brother can't do that.